Sewer, December 9th, 2016.
Good going.
We're at the town hall tonight. It's, do we have a lot of warrants?
Number.
Where's the Viola stuff in the back? Is Viola separate?
No, it's right here.
Woodward and Garner.
Yeah. The signed ones are here.
Alright, that's the stuff that Frank's coming in for.
Yes.
Wanna read these, Paul?
Went to the last one in.
Pass it down then. Give it to Rob.
What have we got here, the first one? This is a whole page of individual warrants?
That should be the summary of everything that's here in the order that you've got them in, Paul.
Okay, because I don't see a total on these, so I'll have to do them individually. So,
That's each individual.
I have to, yeah. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. First one is Town of Charlton for a couple of cases of paper, $44.16. Jeff Helgeson Excavating, $2,700. Again, Jeff D. Helgeson Excavating, $450. Osterman Propane, a series of 3 bills, a total of $1,260.12. Peter Starkis Servicing, some MXU units, $735.25. And Ready Fresh Drinking Water for Plant Office, $8.93. Rico USA, for non-contract supported service, $679.70. And WB Mason Office Supplies, $275.96. And Lidco Electric Contractor to troubleshoot switchgear at the plant, $397.70. And lastly, Town Planning Board advertisement and advertising for zoning bylaw amendment, $288.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we have no signature page on this.
That's just for guidance. This doesn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
the signatures are all on
The
each
warrants
one.
have to be
Oh, they're all
signed,
here.
yes.
Well, I've already done them all.
That's it.
If that's the case.
Got a second, any discussion?
Discussion, Steve, what did Lithco find out?
Nothing.
Nothing.
They found both switch gears were operational.
Okay.
Just in regards to the electrical.
Yes. That was months ago. That bill is old. It's been around since September, so.
Was there any conflicts they found or anything? Low voltage, high voltage?
Nope. It's still a puzzle. I mean, we know that we haven't had the issues, but we didn't find the reason for the issues.
Right.
We found an issue with the CAD cabinet.
No, it's the actual generator itself, the switch gears in the MCC room.
You found a problem where? Out on the generator?
No, this was related to SCADA system.
Oh, okay. So I got a motion and a second, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously. So we got we're almost on time here. Can I skip your report for right now?
Absolutely. Sure.
Got appointments? Norma,
Yes,
how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Sure.
give you a few comments. So we put the advertisement out, and we had a lot of good candidates. We actually interviewed 8 candidates. Norma Toffel, where is your resume? I have it here somewhere.
These all,
Where did I put it? Well, in any event, I can't, oh, here it is. Norma topped the list. She has extensive experience as an administrative assistant, last serving as an AA with Hanover Insurance. Recently moved to the area. Her family are residents of Charlton, which is always a good thing, to be able to enjoy our own residence. And she interviewed extremely well. She's obviously exceptionally bright, has really good references, and I can say from the interview process, she is unflappable, because we threw some pretty tough questions at her, a couple of softballs, but a lot of hard questions, and she remained very poised, on her feet, very well, and I think that's very much an asset in water sewer crews. Steve will certainly tell you, and in my time, it's been the case, it can be chaotic down there at times. So being able to be centered and focused is important, and she is all of that and much, much more. And so we are very proud to recommend her to the commission for your attention, and she's here to chat with you if you'd like.
Okay. Is there a start date?
Not yet.
We didn't really talk about that yet,
Okay,
so.
alright.
And right now, I work for Hanover Insurance,
Oh, you
just as a contractor, so I'm not working right now, so I'm available.
Okay. Paula, Rob, have any questions?
Excuse me. Good evening, Norma. Rob Lemansky. Norma, so you're a private contractor right now for Hanover?
I worked in a temp agency for Hanover Insurance, but the
Okay.
contract expired, so
Okay.
I'm no longer working there.
So you're a private contractor?
Correct.
Okay. And the job explained to you was pretty much as far as secretarial
Yes,
work
yes.
at the treatment plant? Okay. And you've had past experience dealing with, we'll call them customers, as far as coming, going, and answering questions, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as the criteria, schooling, what was it, was there a schooling requirement?
I'm
As
sorry?
far as as far as schooling requirement on the application?
I think the job description says associates preferred, and I'm speaking from memory, but I'm pretty sure that's what the job description says.
Preferred.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Computer experience?
Yes.
All right, how about specific programs? Excel? I call it Excel, but Word, yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yeah, okay. Was it explained to you about a billing system?
Yes.
Okay, which, I know it's a.
Yeah, she still was interested after that, so.
Really, well, again, it's not that bad. It's, again, it's, you have familiarity with QuickBooks?
QuickBooks, no.
No, okay. Okay. Your availability is when? Immediately?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
I've never not worked, so since I've been 16 years old, I've
Really?
always
Good
worked
for you.
and worked back to back, so like
Yeah.
sitting at home is,
Okay.
Welcome aboard, I mean,
I actually like to work, so, yeah.
Okay, you have questions? Any questions?
Nope, I think you
No?
got them all.
No, were you present at the
No. I was
interview?
not.
No. I know, I was gonna get an email, which I didn't get.
I'm sorry?
An email when the interview took place?
I told you guys it was gonna be Wednesday afternoon.
You
the
weren't,
last
you weren't
meeting.
sure, you weren't sure.
Oh, it
It was
wasn't?
Wednesday or
my
Thursday.
apologies. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Okay, now, was the pay scale discussed with you?
Yes.
And you're happy with
And
that?
I'm fine with that, yes.
Okay, and as far as union membership and all that stuff?
That wasn't discussed, but I was aware that there would be one.
Okay, okay. All right, I don't know if that's, I don't think it's a big deal, but again, I think there's some responsibility there. Let me see what else. Now, as far as the process goes, is the final decision rest with the board? I believe so, correct? And I get, as far as
Yeah.
the commission, all right, should we wait for the other two members?
should be a full board.
Yeah, we can wait for a full board,
Okay, all right.
which would be,
We're not gonna have normal wait though,
No, you're gonna,
because from what I hear, they may not get here till quite late.
Rob, Joe's not gonna make it tonight.
Okay.
Joe's not gonna make it tonight? No? Okay.
I expect this would be just a formality anyhow.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, guys, because frankly, I wish, and I think you did too, that Normal was here like last week. So,
Yeah.
the faster we can get this process through, we still have to go through administrative details. commission's recommendation goes to town administrator, who then has to do some things, per the process. Remember, I gave you that memo that laid the whole gigantic process out. So we probably, optimistically, it would be next week or after the first of the year before we could actually have Norma here, so don't
And
wanna delay
our
this.
meeting, our next
unless-
meeting isn't until July 9th,
Yeah.
January 9th, excuse me.
Yeah, so
January 9th.
I sure don't wanna delay this too much longer, because we'd like to get her here and start training her. So, up to you guys.
Take a motion.
Well, we didn't all interview everybody, so I expect that we trust the judgment of you and Robin and whoever else was involved with the interview process. And I would just soon make a motion tonight to grant approval.
Second?
Open for discussion?
Sure.
Again, I just thought, again, Norma seems a fine person, and based on just the recommendation from Kevin, and also, was Robin present at the
Yep,
interview?
she
Yeah,
was.
Yeah. I still like to see a full board, but on the other hand, it's been a long time.
Great. And the commission's
It's
made.
too long. It's actually
So-
embarrassing. It's
Well-
taken this long. No, again, no effect on you, Norma, but again, it's taken way too long. So,
Okay. Duly noted. Any more discussion?
I have nothing else.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
I vote aye.
Yeah, good. Welcome aboard.
Passes.
Passes.
And we'll get an opportunity for Norma
Right.
to meet Gabe and Joe, so that,
Yeah,
they have a comfort level, but we wanna have that. And I know, Rob, that abstention is not a
Yeah.
lack of.
Oh,
any
no,
reflection of
absolutely not,
confidence in her.
absolutely not,
Good.
no.
We just want you to feel welcome.
Okay.
No, yeah, well,
Either
welcome,
side.
yeah.
I think that's one over there.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
be in touch.
All right, I look forward to working with all of you.
Yeah, welcome, Norma.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
we'll start all over again, and it's gonna get different ones, they're all abatements.
All abatement, okay.
Thank you for saying that.
So let's get those out of the way.
All right, Mr. Chair, my apologies here for not looking far enough ahead. We have a few more warrants to be signed tonight, and these seem to be all abatement warrants. The first one is for 57 Main Street for $42. The next one is for 45 Hollywood Drive, 35 Hollywood Drive, 145 Glen Echo Shore Road, 80 Park Road, 45 Burlingame Road, 43 Burlingame Road, and 133 North Sturbridge Road, totaling $157.50. Next, we have 82 Park Road for $4.50. And lastly, maybe not. Anyhow, next we have 150 Glen Echo Shore Road, $118. 3 Stevens Drive, $78. 131 Sunset Drive, $126. 19 Sunset Drive, $182. 125 Old Worcester Road, $118. 147 City Depot Road, $78. And for the same address, $244.88. One was for the April billing, totaling $141.74. And lastly, we have one for 24 Main Street for $12.90, 44 Burlingame Road for $5.70, and 9J Hammond Road for $11.88, totaling $30.48. That's it.
Got a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No discussion, no.
All those in?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it passes unanimously.
Somehow I lost my paperwork. Did I pass it on?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay.
It's one of these.
One of those files, there you go.
one of
Thank you
those.
very much.
So,
Okay, send it back. Oh, we need to sign these.
Mr. Cavalieri,
Right.
come on up.
Gentlemen?
Hi, Frank. How
Right,
are you?
Steve,
How are ya?
Merry Christmas. Likewise. You as well.
So So, Mr. Chairman, the commission at the last meeting was presented with some year-end or contract end invoices regarding loadings and things like that, all per the contract with Woodard and Curran, and you wanted some background information, so Frank was kind enough to come tonight, and I know we've got a couple other folks as well, so that any questions that the commission has, they're prepared to answer them for you.
Do you have the, I guess it's D's, Frank, I don't know if you've seen.
In that order, that's what's in here. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a copy?
I do, yes.
Okay.
His order's in the same.
Same as this?
Yes.
Okay. If you usually go through those with us?
So I reorganized, you just have to tell me the amounts and I can talk through them.
Sure. The starting one is 17,592. You want
That's,
an invoice number?
no, I got it. So
Okay.
that's the standard flow and loads adjustment that takes place each year.
Okay,
And,
so that's every year,
yes.
okay?
And the details in the back, and it gives actually, for the past 4 years as well, what the adjustment is. So it's
Okay.
just based on the same influent characteristics, and then for the BOD, there's no adjustment. For the TSS, there has been adjustment.
Oh, okay, that graphs the past 4 years.
Right.
Okay. Then the next one is, for COMAG, 10 months.
Just pass it over, Alex. Just, no, one of your right hand.
Yep.
Thank you.
This is a similar thing that's been going on for the last 5 years. The COMAG was originally designed to run just during the season and remove phosphorus, and then the plant experienced a bunch of metals violations, ended up having to run the COMAG year-round. So this adjustment is basically extra magnetite, sludge loads, and chemicals to run the COMAG during the winter season to remove metals.
Okay.
Excuse me, Frank, did you just say that there was extra metals to deal with? That's
There was
why-
metals violations that occurred in 2011, I
Oh,
believe.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
And then by putting the COMAG on year-round, we're able to eliminate those. So this was just
Right.
the cost of running it year-round.
Okay, okay. Which, we had that cost last year.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the last 4 or 5
Okay,
years,
so-
correct.
And is there also history printed out on the bill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I'll tell you, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I was the one who made the comment at the last meeting when this.
I find that shocking.
It appeared to be an avalanche, and I says, are we being punished for moving on to a new operator?
Yeah, no, these
just
were the
because-
standards. I believe the new contract, you had to include all these costs, so there won't be as many, these adjustments
Yeah,
each year.
if I may, Mr. Chairman, Steve, do you recall what the total was last year? I thought it was somewhere around, it was some, in the 30s?
No, it was just 30 for the flows and loads. The RM adjustment, the other was somewhere around 45 or 48,000.
For the year-end adjustments?
For year-end adjustments, yes.
Thank you.
The next one I got is SCADA up Headworks. I think.
Yeah, that's the 13,000.
32, 37.
32, 37, 24. SCADA UPS Headworks.
Okay.
Here it is. We got 3 signatures.
So that was a change order to, part of that was engineering work for
Yep.
one of the,
To 172107.
Yep. and the other part was a change order to upgrade the UPSs. That was actually the second invoice for that
Okay.
UPS upgrade.
Mr. Chairman, is this the SCADA that failed us 2 weeks ago?
In the Headworks?
I don't
The
know.
Headworks.
I'm
in-
asking,
No,
no?
this is in the Headworks. This is SCADA in the Headworks. The SCADA that failed us a couple weeks ago was in the main part of the plant, right?
Correct.
So one has nothing to do with the other?
Yeah, I don't know what that represents.
Is SCADA one system, or is it multiple systems down there?
There's different components. So there's the work that that was for was either replacing or installing uninterruptible power supplies in the headworks.
Okay,
Yeah, typically you have to try to replace them every so many years.
right. I thought we replaced the whole unit at one time.
And I think that's it, right? Or is there one more?
There's one more. 13,006.
Oh, okay. Skater and power support for the plant outside contracted service.
Yep.
Did you want those?
Okay.
You know, that other skater bill was numerous call-ins for the during the last contract year. A lot of it was emergency calls to address different issues. One was an SSO that we experienced as well, due to skater problems. And I have all the technical detail, which I think I gave Steve, but I have a copy of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the SSO you guys experienced was from mechanical, was the bolt coming off the auger, right?
Yes, but there was also repairs done to fix the high-level alarm, which didn't alarm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's related to that.
So that's that one. Next one's for 84864. This is for the sludge TCLP.
Yep. So because of the problems in New England, Massachusetts
this
sludge disposal, we'd have a TCLP done, so that was done as a pass-through. And the other piece of that is just, the maintenance budget's normally $25,000. So that's the credit, would have been $23,000 for 10 months. And, I think it was 23,000.
Okay.
That's just a portion of that credit that didn't get spent because you paid for it in these other invoices, if you will.
Right. That's the 1907-38
Yes.
Yep.
credited?
Yep.
And the last, this is the
The
last,
last one, yeah.
is $1,875.
Yep.
Gray line waste sludge flow meter?
Yep, there's a clamp-on flow meter that was put on the waistline that was property Woodard and Curran. And-
Oh, you
Yeah.
called me about,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Steve called me about
Yes.
this during the transition.
Yes.
I said that was fine, there was no point in trying to take that out of the system because of the transition of contractors.
So, we bought the flow meter?
Yeah, $1,800, it was better than paying for labor for somebody to take it out and then these guys put a new one in.
How old was this one?
2 years?
2 years old?
I think it's 2
Well,
years.
no, it's, the meter itself is like from 2007. It's been installed for more than 2 years. Probably 4 or 5 years.
What do you mean? It's from 2000, it's a
The-
model 2007?
Yep.
Yeah,
It hasn't
but-
changed. The new model's about $2,500.
Okay, but this one here, even though it was purchased in 2007, it was installed somewhere around 2010
It
or
was installed
2011?
here in probably 2010. I don't think, I could find the exact
Yeah.
date. So what we did is instead of pumping the waste sludge, we installed a gravity line to the tank, so you wouldn't have to pump, and just put a flow meter on there. And then it ended up staying there. When we were leaving, we're like, oh, that's our flow meter. So we said, do you guys wanna keep it or not? So that's all.
So it's an inline flow meter?
It's a clamp-on, yes. It's in line on the sludge, it's clamped on the plastic sludge line.
Okay.
But it saved the money ultimately because we got rid of having to pump.
I'm just curious, how does there's nothing internal. It detects the flow by the outside
Yeah,
Magnets, Rob.
vibrations?
It's magnets.
Magnets?
yeah, it clamps on the outside of the pipe and sends a signal, and then that
Okay.
measures the flow.
And those-
Pretty standard.
Is that
clamp.
down in some type of sump, or is it,
No, it's right, when you walk down the end of the RBCs,
okay,
that's where the waste pumps are.
okay.
Instead of running the pumps, we allow it, because it would pump from here down to here, and it didn't make any sense if we
Okay.
could run it by
All
gravity.
right, so it's a reasonable switch out,
Absolutely.
yeah. And as to, I guess, the only other again, if we're gonna split hairs here, is what's the useful life of that that's left, and is $1,800 a fair price? Because there's little or no labor to change it.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you don't want it, we'll just take it, and
Yeah.
the new one's gonna cost you a couple of grand, but that's up to you guys.
So it's gonna cost us $200 more for a new one. All right, well, maybe we can think about that. I guess, can I go back to the No, 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 those instances to where we had that electrical problems and the people came down and tried to bird dog where the problem was originating, and I think none of us came up with anything. I know Kevin had met with the electric people quite a few times. Was anything ever concluded as far as?
Yeah, there was some conclusions that came out of the last meeting. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what they were, but you guys were gonna do some things, and we're gonna try to pass the baton to Viola, and the power company, National Grid, was gonna do a couple of things. My understanding, without knowing if those things got done or not, is that we haven't had any more problems. Is that correct?
Right, we corrected the issue with the drive tripping, whenever there was a power outage, that's been corrected. We found a programming issue with one of the VFDs. And then there was a fault whenever the cabinet would open. We found that error, so that issue as well, so that's been corrected. We've had no issues associated with power, conditioning or anything.
All right, so there's no one else that we can get reimbursed from, because it seems like it's pretty much, everything's in-house.
Yeah. I looked at that pretty thoroughly, and, what would be required would be to do your own voltmeter testing in order to dispute National Grid's. And
Yeah,
the
okay.
problem, of course, is we didn't have a voltmeter in place, so we can't do it retrospectively, we'd have to do it prospectively, because, we have no ability to argue with them. So, they weren't accepting responsibility for any of the incidents that had occurred, because their voltmeter said that there were not line fluctuations at a level that would have produced the problems that were noted. So, it became a prospective problem going forward, and so far so good with what's been done.
Yeah, getting back to the high-level alarm system, $13,000. What's the breakdown on that, approximately? How much was for materials, and how much, just off the top of your head, nothing exact, and how many hours were labor involved? It seems to me it's a high price for installing a high-level alarm.
Yeah, that wasn't just the high-level alarm. I believe Steve has the breakdown of all the hours. Let me see if I added it up. It was 88.75 hours of labor, and it was, probably 20 different trips. So it was call and emergency guys would show up to fix something, and all that detail is, I've already provided to Steve. It was really all call-in when something broke, and part of it was to put the alarm in after it, but most of it was calling, something shut down, something broke, power issues, that cabinet issue he was talking about.
20 different calls, 20 different callings?
Yeah. And that didn't even count the time I had the guys here. We spent another $8,000 with our SCADA guys internally to help review the system and do that stuff. That wasn't call-in stuff, so that wasn't the billable part. That cabinet he's talking about is old. You wouldn't design a cabinet like that anymore with high voltage, low voltage, this and that.
Sure.
So it's had several issues, and it needs to be upgraded. It's my opinion.
Anything else? Any more discussion?
All set.
Paul? Does this have to be?
Needs a motion to pay those bills, yep.
Okay. You get a motion to pay these, to accept them as heard?
I'll make the motion to accept the bills now that we've had full explanation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, those have 3 signatures on them?
I believe they all do.
Yeah, okay.
I think they all have 4.
Those were all
signed
signed
last-
we signed them last week.
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
So they're
They're
making me
all signed, we
move
just-
my office, and I was cleaning up, and I found 2 reports that belong to the plant. So if I can leave them with you, is that good? Sure.
Are those on the, that's the latest,
No, they're from years ago, tie and bond reports that I happen to have in my office, but I don't need them anymore, so.
good seeing you, Frank. Merry
Yeah, you
Christmas.
too, guys. Have a
Jody,
good
safe
holiday.
holidays, Mike.
Christmas.
What's up, Jody?
Gentlemen, Jody?
All right.
Get a copy of that SCADA report that we put. In that report, it solves a lot of those problems. We discovered what.
Just this one?
No, there was a report as part of that
Yeah.
SSO. I
Just-
would refer you to that SCADA report.
Yep.
We discovered why it took 20 calls to figure it out.
Come on up. You guys are up next anyway. How you guys doing?
We're doing well.
Very well, thank you for asking. This monthly report is for the month of November. We have listed the plant personnel that are on site now, and we've conducted our health and safety. There's been no accidents, proper PPE is being used. The training is being set up as an online training course that will take care of the required safety training. And in regards to operation and maintenance, on the 11th, excuse me, November 1st, EMS was on site, which is Electrical Maintenance Services. They handle electrical work and instrumentation. And they installed the flow proportional modules, which go on the composite samplers that sample the influent and effluent on a 24-hour period, which has to be paced to the flow that's coming into the plant and going out of the plant versus every 15 minutes. And it's required to be in compliance with the Town of Charlton's MPDES permit. And on the 3rd, we had a failure of a 2-inch valve with a spool piece. It actually was on the COMAG system. And after a while, as the magnetite runs through there, it starts to pitter on the fittings, and it eventually put a hole through the side of the spool piece. There was a shortage of spare parts on site, so we took the one off of pump number 1 that was offline and installed it on number 2 to get the pump up and running, and then the parts were ordered to replace the one on pump number 1. The quarterly toxicity was taken care of. That's on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And also, excuse me, on the 9th, EMS was on site to disable the remote access to the SCADA system for security concerns. The prior contract operations was able to access SCADA system and resolve problems when they had the contract. So now that we're on site, we just wanted to have the security of no one accessing the SCADA system remotely. So until we have a further security protocol or determine what's gonna fit best for remote access, we're gonna leave it disabled for now.
So the on-call operator doesn't have any access to SCADA?
Not remotely.
Not remotely.
We have the alarms.
We have the alarms.
Not the ability to log in and
Right.
make adjustments.
Okay.
Wood and Curran had set it up so they could do that, I guess to avoid actually coming in. But there's obviously some security concerns about putting that out on the web. And you wanna make sure you have all the firewalls properly installed, things like that, so.
Okay. Fair enough.
The high-level alarm float in the Headworks building, there's one in the sump pit that
Yeah,
was,
I mean, that's an issue. They talked about putting in that high level on that conveyor.
ultrasonics.
That's the SCADA.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out you had a float inside that building, inside one of the sumps. And it's wired through the old switchgear panel.
No, the sump pit goes into the skater inside the Headworks building. And the float switch had failed at some point in time, which caused the relay to fail, and along the line somewhere in controls, the fuse was blown. So we had EMS come in and they troubleshot it, and the float switch was bad. The relay was bad and the fuse, which has all been replaced and has been tested and calls out from the verbatim auto dialer. So that has been corrected and resolved at this time.
So if the SCADA is in failure,
Correct.
the verbatim's a redundant, completely isolated system.
For that float alarm,
Right.
yes. It goes direct to the verbatim.
And while we're talking about the headworks, they were pretty clear as to what happened when the last SSO happened, which was just that retaining nut, backed off the auger.
That's correct.
So you
I
guys
saw
are
that.
checking that or making some kind of?
That's on a maintenance work order that will be added, yes.
But we think that the recommendation, the prior recommendation, to install a float inside that offline tank is not necessary. You have a high-level float already in existence. It wasn't working at the time, but it is
Right.
now, so we don't feel the need to add a third redundant float for
Right.
for a flow issue there, so.
Okay.
And in regards to waste-activated sludge pumps that are required for the process, we went to exercise the waste pump sludge number 1, and it kept faulting out. And number 3 has been disassembled prior to Veolia taking over, so it's unknown what the actual outcome or findings were of the pump failing. So at that point in time, the new motor was ordered for pump number 1, as we need something on standby. If number 2 failed, there is nothing, no way to move sludge through the process. We've begun performing the maintenance. The RBCs have had their maintenance per the manufacturer's specs. And on 11/16, EMS was on site again to continue troubleshooting alarms that are not calling out from the SCADA system. And they had also adjusted the timing sequence to prevent the COMAG pumps from shutting down during a generator transfer of power, which was happening previously. So the pumps have been sequence of the timing has been adjusted, so it does no longer happen. So that's off the list of having to be concerned about the pump tripping out. Also, the generator running alarm does not call out, which means we do not know when the generator is running during the weekly full generator run, or if there was an actual power outage. So EMS has been working on that. They found that the wires for the alarms were not terminated, and additional troubleshooting is gonna be required. They have to trace the wires to find out where and at what point the wires were
So-
removed.
When they do their weekly exercise, they don't get an alarm,
No, sir.
and haven't been for,
It's unknown to us at this time, sir.
Or if the generator were on right now, we wouldn't know.
Correct.
Wow.
And that's been one of the things that they've come back to continue to work on. It's unknown how long and where the wires are actually not terminated.
that's in progress.
Yes,
Excuse me, who's EMS?
electrical maintenance services.
It's
They're
our
all-
SCADA vendor.
It's our SCADA instrumentation personnel.
I'm just thinking, as far as the generator goes, you had Litco there a while ago, because they're the ones who I believe wired the generator.
They installed it originally,
They were the
correct.
electrical
Yeah, but
contractor.
if they don't do instrumentation, then it's not really on them.
Well, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, I'm just trying to,
No, but it may
Make it
be
easy.
something they were looking at,
you know,
if they don't do instrumentation.
I don't know.
We can
Pretty large
certainly
company.
reach out to them. We'll have our,
Because, again, they're the ones who installed it, saying, hey, look, you know, of course, we just got that here, it would be you talking, saying, you know, maybe you did it right, but now, you know, this thing starts up and nobody knows it according to our system. The SCADA system's supposed to tell us that, right?
yeah, you should definitely have an
Yeah.
alarm, whether through the verbatim or through SCADA or through both. It's something you definitely wanna know.
The verbatim does have an alarm listed for it, as again, though, the wires are not terminated, so either the verbatim or the SCADA will not call out at this time. regards to pump station activities, on November 7th and 8th, we completed testing every alarm at each pump station. And as you can see, there was 3 pump stations that had to have issues corrected. So on Glen Echo, the power outage did not call out. So without having an alarm, we would never know when the power was out at that lift station. And also the high-level alarm float was tripped and did not call out. So both those issues at Glen Echo have been corrected now. And also at Mugget Hill Road, same situation, the power outage did not call out. So in case of a power failure, we would not know if that pump station was without power. And the low-level alarm did not call out. So the importance of a low-level alarm also is so your pumps do not continue to run and run and run, so that you cause, damage to our pumps. And lastly, on Burlingame Road, the low level did not call out also, so that now also has been corrected. And November 1st, we visited all the lift stations and changed the phone numbers to the Veolia on-call list, and they were tested. And then pump station number 1, which is MTA 5 East, the low wet well alarm relay failed for the compressor, so a new relay was ordered. So again, you would have that false pretenses of a low-level alarm with the pumps. And then also on November 3rd, pump station number 3 had a loss of communications. The phone line had actually failed out on the telephone pole, and Verizon came in, replaced the phone line to the pump station, and confirmed the dialer with a dialer tone, and called all the on-call cell phone numbers to confirm before Verizon left, so the station was back up to 100%. Excuse me. And November 10th, EMS started troubleshooting the remainder of the alarms at pump stations, which were corrected, that were listed above for Glen Echo, Mugget Hill Road, and Burlingame Road. And there was an alarm call received at pump station 10, which is North Sturbridge Road, for a seal failure on pump number 1. The pump was tested and the seal had failed, so we replaced the pump. So the pump station was back online with 2 pumps. And on November 18th, the Rayco alarm dialer, the new upgraded alarm dialer had failed. It is under warranty, so it has been sent out for repairs. And we had placed a new one online. We programmed it, had it activated, and tested all the alarms. And that was all set. And then on November 28th, we had the alarm call at pump station number 10 with the high wet well level. Upon getting on site at the pump station, both pumps were running and were not able to keep up with the flow coming into the wet well. And at that point in time, we called Helgerson Septic Company to pump out the wet well so that we could evaluate it. And that's when we found that the discharge pipe was broken off approximately 6 feet up from pump number 1. So the pumps were not able to keep up. So at that point in time, that's when Weston and Sampson was called in for emergency repairs. And they completed the repairs, and during that time, the swing check valves were inspected at the same lift station to make sure there was no issues or creating back pressure towards the wet well where the pumps are. So those were fine, corrected. And in collection systems, we had inspected a sewer lateral capping at 1 Sunset Drive. And during the month of November, there were 2 grind-to-pump calls. One was at 120 North Sturbridge Road, and the other one was 123 City Depot Road. In additions to that, Veolia had performed inspection services for sewer connections and performed the CBYD markout. And Veolia performed the water line installation engineering inspections on Route 20. And that completes the monthly operating report for the period of November 1st to the 30th. If the commission has any questions or requires additional information, please let me know. There's also the list of maintenance costs in that report of repairs and expenditures.
Yeah, unfortunately, we just haven't got our invoicing squared away just yet, so I apologize for that, but we should have it cleared up by the end of the month, so we can actually get you your invoice and all that, it's just
Being
trying to-
late with your bills is always acceptable.
So, yeah, it's, we're late with our bills, basically. But I did want to share, some of the skater expenses that to date in November associated with all of that work. And candidly, I will share that the skater programming is in far better shape today. I assure you of that. There was a skater report associated with that SSO that occurred, which really identified what I suspect was a long-standing problem with the communication between the two PLCs, the parent and the child setup that had been in place. I also took that skater report and funneled it through our internal IT people, and they concurred that the new programming format between those two PLCs is the correct approach. And should prevent those nuisance alarms that appears that had been troubling them for quite some time. And it had all to do with the way the two were communicating, back and forth to each other.
So it was a programming?
Yeah, it was, the way, and I won't lie to you and say that I'm an expert with SCADA, but there's a parent and child relationship where the parent PLC controls everything, gets all the information, and communicates to the child PLC, if you will, which then communicates to verbatim to call out for alarms. Well, the parent PLC was talking in such a way that it was basically getting the child hung up. And the issue we had was when the child got hung up, it wouldn't send any alarms out. And then on that particular SSO issue, the parent PLC actually failed, but because the way it was programmed, the child PLC, which communicates to verbatim, didn't know it, so it never called out any alarms. So basically, the plant was dead, but no alarms were being, that's all been corrected.
Are any of the PLCs out of date?
Our understanding is that the child PLC, the older one, is older than the newer one, but I think it's still perfectly acceptable. I think that the issue was the way that it was programmed to communicate with each other. I think.
Because I did some research on it, and I believe both numbers that were given to me through Woodward and Curran's tenure, that both PLCs that were in question are still available parts.
Parts available.
Yeah.
It seems to us, and does at this point, that it strictly was a programming issue and not
Okay.
a hardware
right.
device issue. And we haven't had an issue ever since. And now we actually put in some redundant checks.
Yep.
So that the two PLCs monitor the health of the other one, and they will report directly to verbatim in the event that it sees a failure of one or the other. And then also, we now have verbatim has a health monitor, if you will, where if verbatim goes down, we're notified of it.
So that's essentially an alarm at that point,
Right.
that dials up, okay.
So we feel pretty comfortable now that, we also found a relay that had been removed, and we're not sure why that was removed inside the PLC cabinet, but that would have alerted the child PLC that the parent was failed, and for some reason, it was removed. That's since been replaced.
Okay.
And we
And
actually
tested?
have it wired now, so that if it ever gets removed again, it will actually trigger an alarm. It was in an always open position, and when it was in alarm, it would close. Now it's always closed, so if you were to actually remove the relay, it would send an alarm. Or if the relay were to fail. So it can't be accidentally or purposely removed without
Right.
us being aware of it.
So, all right.
So it's disappointing and unfortunate we had to learn that the hard way, but we feel we're in a much better position today than we were coming in. But it doesn't come without expense. I shared with you, what those skater expenses are gonna look like for November. It's about $3 appropriate $3,000.
Go ahead.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Keith, you'd mentioned that on the pump station down on North Sturbridge Road,
Yes,
when you had Helgeson come in to pump, then you made a determination that there was a broken pipe,
that's correct,
plastic pipe, PVC.
correct.
And then you said you called in Weston and Sampson?
Yes.
And now, who were they? I wouldn't
They
remember
are a
Weston's.
outside contractor that does sewer repairs. I had also contacted RH White, but they were unable, unable to send a team out for the repair.
Okay, so the Weston and Sampson, that's not the same engineering firm, is it?
It's a pump man, it's a pump wing of them. They were able to respond at the time we needed them. It was around Thanksgiving, correct?
That is
So
correct.
we were struggling to get it.
Okay, and is that bill in here?
No,
No,
no, I
Okay.
haven't.
And, all right, the commission may want to expand on that list, or if we have some hometown people that we've used in the past,
absolutely.
we could get there quicker.
Absolutely.
So, okay, all right. we'll
Yeah,
check on that.
it was one of those emergency type situations where we felt we needed to get somebody as soon as possible.
Yeah,
But
that was on a
certainly
weekend,
having an
correct?
on-call list to be good. Sorry?
That was on a weekend.
It was a Friday.
It was,
When was it?
During high
Friday or
rains, I
Monday.
remember that.
I'm sorry?
It was during high rains, I remember that.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't wanna speculate on the date, I can't remember.
I think it was actually a Monday, because that's when the rain
Monday?
event came
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, all that was, just the pipe was replaced.
Yeah, it was, obviously it seemed to be a fatigue issue, years of.
I think I may have asked this before, Keith, was it Schedule 40 or Schedule 80 pipe?
It was Schedule 80,
It was Schedule 80?
yes.
Okay.
That was the other reason behind having the swing check valves inspected at the same time, to make sure the valve was not hung up in a closed position, creating all the back pressure,
Right, yeah.
which would have contributed to possible pipe breaking, but,
It's not those silly PVC and ball.
no,
Checks.
they're
They're at the
physical,
actual swing.
physical swing check valves,
Yeah.
yes.
Station's what, 16, 17 years old?
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah, just probably the on-off cycle,
Yep.
it's just
Exactly.
fatigue.
Yep.
So it's had to be cut and glued and
Yeah.
collared and put back in place.
So,
Okay.
alright. You guys doing treehouse too?
I'm here for your benefit, yeah.
Okay.
Keith can leave if
Some
you're all
questions?
set with Keith.
Yeah, go
Any
ahead.
Questions? The only, I guess, what I'd like to do is, I think, John, we had talked to you about the possibility of Leola doing billing. Okay, and in order for you to quote that, what do you need?
Yeah, I think we just need to sit down and discuss what type of scope the town might be interested in us performing, i.e.
We've had
just.
some preliminary conversations about that, and, I think, I'll follow up with whatever the information is that's needed for John to be able to develop a quote for you.
And, John, also is, if we were to be considering becoming a water operator, your company does water operations,
Yeah, in fact, we do them in Sturbridge.
Newman Sturbridge. Okay, and I guess the other question would be.
We do them a lot of other places, but
Okay.
close proximity to Charles.
Is, if we were to just go and take our entire operation, current, we just do sewer, with the possibility of it being water and sewer, your company could also give us a quote on that operation as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we request Veola to do, as long as they're willing to do a quote of, based on three different phases here. One would be billing, two would be operating a water department for us, and three is the operation of the entire facility, which would be water and sewer. I guess you would break that into 1 and 2, is if it's sewer only, and then 2 would be sewer and water.
Yeah, but I don't think they combined water and sewer under,
Couple comments. First, you have a contract right now in
Okay,
place with sewer, so you can't
Right.
combine it. It's a 3-year contract with an option for 2 additional years. Secondly, both services, billing as well as water operator, covered by the procurement code. You can't ask for quotes. You have to
RFP.
IFB it or RFP it. You cannot ask for quotes. That you are barred from doing that.
Okay, so, and this is what
And
you...
if you did it, and then you later put it off an RFP, that would constitute collusion, and they'd be barred from quoting.
Okay, all right. Good. You had a discussion with John maybe a month ago about
Yeah,
this?
about billing.
About billing?
I think the billing may come in under the bid threshold. I'm not sure.
they just changed
It's
that.
a close question, and the law requires, in the instance where you know something, or you reasonably suspect it will be over the bid threshold, then you're required to RFP it or IFB it. If it's a close call and you're not sure, then you're allowed to get a quote, and then if it turns out the quote is over the threshold, now you've gotta go through the full process.
After November 7th, it changed from, if you know it's gonna be over 35,000, you
Right.
have up to 50,000.
Right.
But if you know it's gonna be over 35,000, it's three written quotes.
Okay, I guess, getting back to my motion, which, and thank you for the added information, would Viola be willing to, without giving us a firm quote, will give us a ballpark idea of what these services would cost, so that we could then say all right, if we know it's gonna be in this range, then we would go to a formal bid. Is that possible?
Again, system operator costs, by definition, are vastly over the bid threshold. We know that.
We're not asking them to bid it, I'm asking,
I
what
understand.
I'm looking at, okay.
So if you ask
So
them
it's not
to,
a bid,
if you ask them to give you an estimate,
yeah,
it's tantamount to engaging in a conversation on a subject, asking for pricing on a subject which is subject to the bid law.
okay.
That
Then,
is
Mr. Chairman, I'd
collusion.
like to change my motion that we actually
Now,
put
the
a bid out.
billing they
Put
can
a
do,
bid
Rob,
out for these 3 services. All right, and then give it to three or more, just so that for our own,
I don't think we can
You know,
put out sewer.
no,
Just-
I agree, we can't put out sewer. We
Ju-
can
just a
certainly-
brand-
sewer's under contract.
Right.
Correct.
Under a
correct.
3-year
We can
contract.
certainly put out the water part, and we can certainly put out the billing part. And so what we would do is we'd develop a scope, and then based on that scope, we would then do our RFP and put it in the recorder or wherever it needs to be put. But, I wanna see us be able to move forward here to begin to get some answers on some of these questions.
Okay, duly noted, but I don't wanna take up more time.
Well, no, and again, because I didn't wanna take up their time.
Okay.
Not, or at least I don't intend to take up their time now because of the new information. So the new information is they would certainly wanna bid on it, and they would certainly be invited to bid on it, but we've gotta follow, what's it, chapter 32 rules as far as the bidding goes, and put this thing out there. So the motion would be to put out the bid, A, the billing for sewer, and B, for the operation of our water department.
Go ahead.
No, we need a second before we discuss anything.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Hopefully later tonight, we're gonna talk about award of this master plan, that was submitted. If I were to try to write a bid spec for you right now, or an RFP, request for proposals for operations of the water system, I tell you frankly, I wouldn't know what the heck I'm writing, nor would anybody else know. Because you're about to go from a certain thing to a much bigger water system. And so trying to figure out now, before this report is done, exactly what it is you're speccing is essentially impossible. Now, the last task in this RFP, this master plan, is to write that very document for exactly that purpose, for a system operator. That's part of the RFP. So if we were to attempt to do it now, I would submit to the commission, we don't know what we're writing. And then secondly, we'd be doing work tying up staff time that you're already gonna pay for. So I'm not sure what the goal is there. With respect to the billing, again, I think there's a reasonable chance that that service would come in under the bid threshold. And so I think you ought to find out first if that's the case, because we have a reasonable expectation that it will be. So you may not have to quote it. But if the commission wants to go right to a quote, then you should do that. But I think first you're gonna need to determine who's gonna write that specification, because I don't know if I'm here past 2 weeks from now. And that's a pretty complicated RFP to write, I can tell you.
Go ahead, Gary.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, in clarification, if I'm wrong, Rob, is this to kind of figure out how much we need to spend, or basically more for putting this whole package together in regards to moving to that consecutive water system, or, you know what I mean, is your intention?
Exactly, no, as far as B goes, as far as A goes, I'd certainly like to know what it would cost to have a third party do our billing versus doing what we're doing right now. Okay, as far as the B part goes, is I have been and will continue to be against doing any master planning unless I know what the water rate is. Water rate comes first, because if it's not gonna be a water rate that's gonna be compatible for us operating our system, then we need to go no further. It's that simple. And the thing is to go and spend, I don't know how many, whether it's tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on this, and then get to the negotiation of a water rate, and then say, geez, we can't afford to tell our customers, you're gonna get the same water, the only thing is, it's now gonna cost you 20% more, because of what it's gonna cost to operate our water department. So, one has gotta come before the other. And the one that's gotta come before any of this is, we need to know have a real good idea of what the water rate's gonna be. Because that's the only way we're gonna have income.
Right. You've
Okay.
gone through this every meeting for the last 8 or 9 meetings, Rob.
Yeah, and where are we? We're still in the same spot. And the thing is
Okay,
I'm not voting to spend whatever this is gonna cost you until we know what the water rate is. I don't know what the rest of you people are gonna do, but I know I'm not voting
Okay.
for it.
Just a reminder, 2 reminders to the commission before you do whatever it is you want to do with this motion. Number one is, we're getting ahead of ourselves here, because the master plan is an item on the agenda. Recall, you're not spending anything, because this is a grant.
Grant money.
For that specific purpose, so that if you don't award this contract and you don't spend that money, then the grant will just be returned to the state.
No.
Secondly, if I could finish.
If you can, but
Secondly, the open meeting law is quite explicit, and I've actually given you a copy of it on several occasions now. An agenda item which is not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed, and particularly, you cannot make a motion on an item that's not on the agenda unless it was reasonably unforeseen. I think if you make a motion and you pass it on the subject, and somebody submits his complaint to the Secretary of State's office on an OML violation, it is a slam dunk violation. You've discussed this, as the chairman indicated, 8 or 9 times. I don't think you're gonna be able to claim that it's not an unforeseen topic, that it is an unforeseen topic. And so you're gonna violate the open meeting law if you pass this motion. I've said this to you, I don't know how many times. If it's not on the agenda, you can't discuss it and you can't take a motion, guys. I don't wanna be a pain, but I also don't wanna see you get a headline either.
Mr. Chairman, relative to that, the billing is old business. It's old
not
business.
on the
It's
agenda. It's not
old
on the
old
agenda,
business.
Rob.
Okay, fine. The money that we're talking about here, the grant, the grant is not, as far as I know, is not specific for a master plan. This grant is part of the $600,000 that is for Charlton to become or to expand its water system. That's what it is. It's not specific. It's grant only. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Doesn't say that. So that's misinformation.
Again, not to be repetitive, but blessed by this commission and as discussed at multiple meetings, We have designed a scope of services. This commission approved the scope of services.
Right.
The scope of services went to the DEP. The DEP approved the scope of services. They have the grant money. It's their money. The commission voted. You specifically voted. Rob, you voted against it.
To send it out.
But the commission voted to issue this RFP, and you have now received this RFP. Again, it's a chain of events, which if you now say we're not going to do that, I can absolutely assure you DEP is going to take your money back.
All right?
Write it down, remember the night you heard it. Because if you suddenly reverse course, two things are gonna happen. A, they'll take your money back. B, you absolutely positively will not become a public water supply anytime soon. I'm talking within
You can't make that
years of
statement.
tonight.
You can't make that
I
statement.
can absolutely
right.
make that statement.
You can't make that statement.
Let's
This
move on.
is
You
what
can't
they
make this.
want to
Move on,
become a
Mr. Chairman,
public water
please.
supply. It's the checklist, Rob. It says it right in there.
You mean the same list that we went
All
through
right,
and
enough.
received a public water supply in
Let's-
2007? 2007, we were already granted, yes, you're gonna be a consecutive public water supply. We've already done this. To
Mr.
go and
Lemansky, I got
spend
people waiting. Let's
extra
move
hundreds
on.
of thousands of dollars to do it again seems just out of place.
Got a motion and a second. We're gonna,
Can't make the motion, it's not on the agenda,
fair enough.
according to the
Okay.
rules, right?
Agenda item, next meeting, please. You write that down?
And that is the issuance of an RFP for billing and for water system operations, or?
We'll have a discussion on it,
No,
general
no, I wanna-
discussion.
Steve and I will know what it is you want listed on the agenda.
Discussion, the possibility of requesting RFP for billing and for water operations.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Treehouse here?
Yes.
You mind?
Ah.
Long day. I don't know if I would be able to drive all the way here without coffee. Long day.
How you doing tonight?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Evening.
Those of you that I haven't met, Jesse Johnson from Bowler Engineering, assisting Treehouse with their wastewater discharge into your system and guiding them along with finding out exactly what we gotta do to comply with your requirements and testing protocol and everything else that you need from us to get us going. And we're kind of at not a critical mass stage, but we're almost there. Construction's gone better than expected, so they're actually hoping to open up and start producing beer this spring, which will mean we've got to kind of get dialed in with what we got to do for pre-treatment, start getting the equipment ordered, designed and ordered, and get it ready to go on the ground as soon as the ground thaws and allows that to happen. So I understand some correspondence came in from your consultant. Maybe we could review that, which was, I believe, in response to documentation that we provided to you guys discussing what we expected to have for a wastewater constituency coming into your system after a level of pretreatment at the brewery. I looked over the correspondence from Veolia. I didn't see anything that jumped out at me. It looked like, I won't speak for them, but it looked like everything was in agreement that what we were proposing to discharge into the system was not out of whack in any way. It was essentially agreeable to what you had available for capacity left in your treatment plant.
What was this at production rate? What production rate was this at?
So the 7,500 gallons per day is the wastewater estimate based off of initial barrels per year of 24,000.
24, 25,000.
Yeah, 25,000 roughly. And a barrel is about 31 gallons of beer. And what you use for a rule of thumb is 3 gallons of wastewater for every gallon of beer produced. So that's a industry standard, and it also vets out, they do a little bit better than that at their existing facility, but this is to be conservative to estimate that, and obviously we'll have means to measure the flow exiting the plant, and they'll be able to monitor that on a daily basis, and they'll have some cycles, because it is batch brewing, so
Right.
they'll have periods where they'll be brewing around the clock, and then they'll also have periods where they don't brew for a particular day, or they might have a string of days that they brew. So last time we were before the commission, we discussed maybe even doing something with timing the release to try to be beneficial more to the plant, because they'll be brewing 24 hours. We could have nighttime releases that would be off your peak hours that you probably typically see from residential uses in town. So we thought that might help with just trying to equalize some of your plant
And
influent.
those times at the plant where you're gonna be brewing and not discharging, that's not a problem, but times you're gonna be discharging heavier, are you gonna have the capacity at your facility before discharging to us?
Well, the plan is to have an equalizing tank.
Okay.
So that we can do that, and it's a great option to be able to have a tank, so that when you need it, we can give you it.
And
When it's best for the town, we can give it to you.
Go ahead.
What, I know it's 7,500 gallons a day, but is it, like 20,000 gallons one day, but, divided over 3 days, it's 7,500 gallons a day, or is it, how does it batch out? I wasn't here at the last meeting, I don't know if you explained
The
it.
brew day is the majority of it, and then there's different cleaning days when we
Okay.
would be. Honestly, packaging is the least, when the beer is brewed and we're packaging the beer, very minimal wastewater at all. Packaging isn't canning or any of those processes.
So like if we put in, let's just, for instance, you put in a 20 or 30,000 gallon holding tank, right? Let's just throw it out
Right.
there.
Right.
You brew, and then every night you ship us, 7,000 gallons, you know what I mean? So that way, you're done in 2 days, but we get it over the course of 5 days, right?
Yeah, and the analysis is based on not exceeding 7,500 any day, so it's
Yeah.
not,
Right.
nothing one day and 14
Yeah.
the next. So
Yeah.
the analysis was based on just a
Yep.
daily average.
excuse me, John, at what point does that change or heavily impact our wastewater treatment plant?
Well, again, I don't think the flow is of concern, because you have plenty of
Right.
hydraulic capacity. The only thing that was identified as impacting the treatment is the BOD. I think I don't have it in front of me, it was about 14% of
Right.
additional
Right.
load per day.
Yep.
Yep.
Which puts you somewhere in the 75 percentile of design. So
You're right.
I wouldn't say that gives you
75%. I thought it
$15,000
was
64.
problem, because again, we talked last time that even though the plant's design could handle it, it does have impacts on some of the other treatment process. So I would have to do a whole nother analysis if you wanted to go above.
So you don't know where we're capped at, if it's 12,000 or 20,000?
Really, yeah, I mean, not to bring up the old subject of the headworks loading analysis, but I think that engineering study is probably what needs to be done. If we're looking to go beyond this, I would recommend that, certainly. The only other thing that wasn't included was aluminum. I know we're still waiting for some aluminum.
Right.
data,
We
because
still owe you
not-
that.
And when do you guys anticipate going above that threshold of 7,500 gallons?
It'll be a few years.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll certainly be, for the first year, I don't even see us going near it.
Okay.
It'll take us a long time to get up to that 25,000 gallons, that 30,000 gallons. So after 3 years,
We-
then we start increasing capacity,
Okay.
but not until.
And the other part is if they can be as efficient as they are in Munson, where they're looking at 2 to 2.5 max gallons of wastewater per gallon of beer, then they could even produce more. The 7,500 is what we're estimating based off of conservative 3 gallons per wastewater, 25,000 barrels per year. That's, again, ramp up over a couple of years. That's not right out of the gate what they're gonna be doing. But
Right.
we're gonna put in, we're pricing out at least a 15,000 gallon equalization tank to start, so double what we think they would be estimated for maximum average daily flow. But then also we're we're making it so that it is gonna be a component type of system where they can just add on to it in the
Right.
future when their capacity increases, and there's no wasted money spent in the system, it's just something going, all right, guys, we're ready for the next stage, and plan it out accordingly, obviously come see you guys ahead of time, talk about the impacts, talk about what needs to be done, if there's a study or something that needs to be, done to make sure that can happen, and what the impact would be to you.
I wanted to point this out just for a second, in the thing, John, that you had sent, it's actually 64% of capacity, not 75. Yeah, after our 14% is added.
People review that calculation.
All right, good, because, no, it's on there. It says 64%. So after our 14% is added.
Oh, you mean what I just spoke about?
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
you're gonna be
Your
at
letter's
64,
correct,
not
or
75. We don't bring you
Okay.
to 75% PODs. I think that's big.
Just a
Yeah, no,
suggestion
sorry.
for the commission, and I hope will make this easier for you. It's kind of tricky. What you guys have to do is you have to give them a standard that they design to. And we also have to charge a fee, which is attached to what's an estimate, but not a completely known number at this point, i.e. how much gallonage you're gonna generate. So a suggestion on a way that you might be able to deal with that, and make some sense for the commission and also for some good businessmen, is to offer a standard that says basically that the loadings per gallon will be equal to design standards, or less. Now, why do I suggest that? Because you have a design standard for the plant for the loadings, for all those parameters, aluminum, TSS, everything, and you have a design gallonage, and those two things are attached to one another. So if you say you could produce 7,500 gallons at design loadings, that is something that John knows what that means, and this gentleman knows what it means, and it's a standard that they can design their treatment to. But then, there'd be a codicil to that motion that says, and if the design standards are exceeded, then the same kind of surcharges that you do with East and West apply. Now, that would handle the design portion of this in a certain way. By the way, just remind the commission, unfortunately, there's no pre-treatment standard for breweries, if you can believe it. There's for all sorts of industries, but not breweries. So we don't have a off-the-shelf thing we can apply. Second issue you gotta deal with is what should be the fee, the privilege fee that you charge in this case. And I don't know if the commission's ever done this, but where you don't know exactly how many gallons there are, my suggestion is you make your motion contingent upon an amount of expected gallons and a fee to be paid based on that. And then at the end of the year, you can true it up. So if less gallons come in, you can rebate.
Kind of
If
a
more gallons
retroactive
come in,
active
you can
type of
charge
deal.
more.
Correct.
And that way, again, there's a standard. So if 7,500 is what the gallonage is that's expected, you charge a fee based on 7,500 gallons that goes into an account. At the end of the year, we true it up, and if they produce less than 75, you rebate it on a proportionate basis, and if they produce more, then they get an additional charge. And that's kind of a way you can grapple with these issues where you deal with so many unspecific things. I don't know if that makes sense, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and you guys, but it's just a suggestion I've been kind of thinking about over the last week or so.
If I may, Mr. Chair. You know, and I think we talked about that a couple of meetings ago. Remember I said about possibly a
Yeah.
rate.
That's exactly where it comes from.
Could you also do could you keep that, I guess, and I don't know the legals of, I guess, keep it in, that kitty almost, so you know you're growing.
In an escrow account, yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you put that towards future.
Yep.
So let's say you use 5,000 gallons a day for the next year. Well, you got 2,500 gallons a day. You know what I'm saying? So instead of, the whole point of this,
You
not to bankrupt you.
don't need a check back at the end of the year. It can be a credit to go
Correct.
on.
I mean, I don't wanna overcomplicate this and, we don't wanna make this but I want you to be able to just pay for what you're using and,
So do we.
Exactly,
So do we.
It's the whole thing. I don't wanna charge you for 20,000, you're using 5, I don't, so.
Right.
But I also
And
vice
vice
versa.
Mr. Chairman, I believe at our last meeting, which we were down at the treatment plant, I thought when we closed the meeting that, Mr. Johnson, right?
Yes.
That you were gonna come back with some more information for us to consider. Because if in fact we are to look at this and we're looking for a starting point, well, the starting point is, in our bylaws, is you need to meet the standard of the national standard, which is household waste. And household waste, the BOD is somewhere below 300.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say is, that's our starting point. Now, if in fact what you've got here in your chart, your estimated 1,500, but I believe if you turn the clock a little further back, originally that was 3,000 that was given to us, and that number was cut in half by adding the extra settling tank, or sediment tank. Is that correct?
Correct. Some type of pretreatment will be performed to get down to the 15.
To get it to 1,500.
Right.
Which is still 5 times more than what we would normally expect.
Yes.
Now, and then you talked about these wafers that could be added into another tank, which I believe Viola Company actually developed themselves, which supposedly worked very well.
Yes.
'Cause I thought that's what we were waiting for. The answer is the same, fine. We went to another layer of treatment, because I know my vision of the current system that we have here in Charlton is that almost the same viewpoint that National Grid takes. Instead of making more electricity, let's make the users more efficient so that they use less electricity, so we have more electricity to give to new customers, rather than building new infrastructure. Because our challenge at the plant is we have limited brook capacity for us to dump into. And what our EPA people are telling us is, look, if you can increase the volume of the brook, then fine, you can make your plant bigger. Well, we can't make our plant any bigger, because the brook is, that flow can't be increased unless we start to empty Glenarco Lake, and I don't think the people who live on the lake are gonna appreciate that much. So, I believe our goal is to take the position with our current high users and our new high users. And like I said at the meeting a couple weeks ago, is we certainly wanna do whatever we can to make this work, for this new company coming to town. And if we have an interim period to where we have to bob and weave and bend and modify, then we'll do that for a period of time, at least from my point of view. But we need to reach a point to where we go and say, we need to get it down to that 275 or 283 or whatever it is, as far as household waste. So that we're able to be fair to the rest of the people who are in our service area, to where the original treatment, the original sewer system was put in place, so that those people have a chance to connect.
I think we discussed that early on in the meeting, but then I think after that, my understanding was there was a talk of not having Treehouse be like a treatment plant, and rather put that money towards the sewer commission and have them invest that back into their plant that would service the whole town. So rather than these guys spending $300,000 to $400,000 on a pretreatment system,
Right.
spending $300,000 to $400,000 on the sewer connection, and then an additional, they're gonna have to still spend over $100,000 on an equalization tank and some other
Right. And
modifications.
I think maybe John may have been present for that, because we either had, we had the fork in the road, which is water and sewer in Charlton makes a greater investment for infrastructure, or the user makes a greater investment in infrastructure, so that we can, service our new customer, and also be able to have additional space for, like I say, that we have multiple properties that are within our service area who have the ability to hook up, who haven't hooked up. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, oh, we gotta save that capacity for them. What I'm saying is, we should be as prudent as possible, so that as time goes on, that we will have that space. And, you know, if you're gonna say to us is, look, you need to work with us and let us get up and going here. And working with John, if in fact we currently have the ability to take this on, with a surcharge, then we do it. And so that's the point I wanted to make. The other thing is I don't believe is that privilege fees are very similar to betterments. Once you assess them, then there is no, after a certain period of time, I think it's maybe 6 months, as far as an abatement goes. It has to happen in 6 months or it doesn't happen. That's my recollection of the statute. And that's what I got right now.
Okay.
I don't know where his position, I don't know where you are. You went around in a circle a little bit, and I'm not sure where the circle ended.
Okay, I guess,
And we gotta know some things.
right, and again, I'm just speaking for myself. The optimum, in my mind, for the Charlton Water and Sewer would be to have all of our customers meet the standard that is in our bylaws, which you know of that standard. That's listed there. That's the optimum. And also is in making the statement of wanting to work with new customers, if we need to modify that for a period of time to accommodate you, then, you know, the commission, I'm saying is I'd suggest to the commission, let's work with these people to see how it works. So then we would turn to Viola or even turn to Mr. Johnson here and say, what do we know of ways of how to reduce this and what's the expense? Because for me, I don't think that the Charlton Water Sewer Commission should take on any expansions or any additional costs. I think what we should do is work with the people who are out there and also suggest to them, in order for you to get here, you have to determine through your experts of how you're gonna get here. We have a bridge time, 12, 18, 24 months, 36 months, we have the ability to work with you so that you can you can then get online and then begin to reduce that down to help us to meet the standard so that we will have space for additional people, rather than giving up, John, it's 14% of our current, of what's left over. So, that's, am I clearer now?
You are.
You are now.
You are.
That wasn't clear the last time, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your patience.
No, I appreciate it. Sometimes it's a long day for me, and I just need to hear it. Thank you.
So our thought was the last time that this was, the information that we provided as our initial discharge into your system was gonna be reviewed by your consultant to see what the impact would potentially be, which is what I feel like we got here on the letter.
I thought that's what we were waiting for.
And then when there was plans to expand the facility again for Treehouse, they would obviously have to come back and talk to you about it, and a next level of treatment or something of that measure would probably have to get incorporated into their system. But initially, discussions are just doing pH balance treatment, equalization and settling, maybe some aeration, you know, enough to knock down the BOD. We know that we can bring the BOD down to household levels, but it's a polishing mechanism. It's a next level of treatment that literally things start to double and triple of what they were initially thinking they would have to invest from a capital standpoint. And then also, it becomes almost like a small treatment plant. You have to have an operator and everything else. Whereas we thought that was gonna be money that would maybe have to be paid for the privilege fee, but not also paid same amount, if not more, for treatment at the plant. Because then you're starting to talk $750,000 and getting up into a number that I don't think anybody was anticipating at this stage.
If I may, in fact, Jesse, you had mentioned this, those wafers.
Yes,
All right, and John, you're obviously familiar with that system.
the MBBR,
What's it called, BBR?
BBR, yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking at approximately, 50,000 gallons a week? Yeah, 7 times 75 is 52,000, somewhere
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
there. John, are you familiar with this type of system as far as reducing the BODs?
Sure.
And you are. And do you have any cost evaluation or cost analysis on that?
No, I mean, there's obviously the upfront capital cost, the tanks, the technology, the mixing, the aeration. And then there's the ongoing O&M cost, which would mostly be electricity, I would think. But, 50,000 gallons is not a large amount of water. But it certainly, as they described, it's a tree treatment process. You're going to need a certain level of operations experience to make sure you can troubleshoot it, to be able to meet it. And then there's testing involved in measuring the efficiency of it. It's basically just an aerated tank where the wastewater goes in and the biology lids on the wafers are in suspension. And it just produces, it removes the BOD, and then there's some sort of clarification to remove the bacteria, to recycle them. And then you discharge the effluent, just like any other package. The MBBR technology is just designed to do it in a very compact area. And it's all about surface area for the bacteria to grow on.
And how long does it take, how much time does that medium need to be in with that, with those wafers? 24 hours, 48 hours?
It's an ongoing project. There would be a startup, some sort of initial bacterial growth.
Seeding, yeah.
But the biology will determine how much of the biology it needs based on the food that's available.
Right.
And then there will be some byproduct, some sludge probably to be disposed of. You convert BOD into sludge, basically. That's what the plant does now.
And that byproduct would be a relatively clean byproduct, wouldn't it?
No, the sludge would be sludge. It would be
What?
some form of activate, some sort of bacterial sludge which would need to be disposed of, similar to what we do at the plant. So there's an
Pumped out, taken away.
Yeah.
Some of your of your byproduct now, isn't it being used as fertilizer?
Yeah, none of that stuff goes down the drain, and none of it
Oh,
will go
okay.
down
Oh,
the
that
drain.
gets-
That's a
okay.
completely different process.
Okay,
Yeah, that's hop matter.
okay.
And some proteins, has nothing to do with this stuff. One of the things that happens is those numbers that are given to you as far as our VODs, those are what we think we're gonna do, because what we're doing in Munson. We have processes in place in our new brewery that take a majority of that and give it to the farmers. A lot of the stuff that's going down the drain now into our Title V system doesn't even see the drain. So those numbers, those are literally the worst case scenario numbers if a tank empties out into the drain. But right now, a certain amount of beer, you wanna talk about BODs, a certain amount of beer enters our drains because of the blow off from the tank. While the tank is fermenting, it's creating CO2 and it's bubbling and it's bubbling and it comes out the blow off tube. Well, we have a bucket of sanitizer on the bottom of that blow off drain. And it's 60 barrels of beer, and it just aggressively blows off and it goes down the drain. 0 of that happens in Charlton, here. 0 of that happens. It all gets recovered through tubes and goes out in any of our side streaming. So that's major BODs. We've seen it at so many different places, like The Alchemist, to use one. None of that goes down the drain, and we'll use the same type of a procedure. So a lot of that stuff that's on that paperwork, and now coming back to what you were saying, Mr. Lemansky, is that taking time and then eventually getting to where you need to be. When 6 months down the road, we may be closer than we had anticipated.
Correct, and
Right.
that's what we're all hoping,
Right.
and that's what we're saying is, look, we'll work with you, you're gonna work with us, you know what we're, at least, proposing here, as far as the goal that we're trying to achieve.
Right.
And that if there is an overage, that overage will be treated like we treat a couple of our other larger customers, which is the surcharge for handling it. but then if you're, again, as your process gets better, and as you know, is you make some modifications, and again, constantly testing, maybe you might have to put a small system.
Exactly.
That John's talking about. But then that way there is, you know, the last thing we want is to be at each other's throats saying, you're killing us, and we're gonna make you pay.
Right.
What we wanna do is say, we wanna work with you.
Yeah,
We'll
the
work with you and say, how do we make this work, and so that we both achieve our goals.
Mr. Chair, is there a possible way, and I think we talked about this briefly a couple meetings ago, taking that privilege fee, moving it aside, and can we set up them in their own rate? And then work that privilege fee back into that rate? Cause if you batching it, you can put a flow meter on the pump out side. So let's just throw out a number here. Let's say it's 200,000, 300,000, right? For the whatever it was, the 7,500 gallons per day.
Right.
Incorporate that back into a normal rate, and then now it's more of an on-demand basis. And then you can set up ranges. So if your BODs are between 300 and 400, here's your rate. If your BODs are between, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna you're probably gonna test every batch or weekly or something like that, I would imagine, right?
We wouldn't, I recommended they come up with some sort of sampling schedule.
I would hope so.
But not for naught. There's a course of time during the year where we don't get flows at night at all.
We've
In
had
summer,
those in the
yeah.
summertime, yeah.
This would help in that, if we have no flows, to keep the evolution of everything going, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, the question is, you know, you're looking at it from a concentration perspective, the plant's really looking at it from a loading perspective, a pounds perspective. So, although I can't argue holding everyone to the standard of a residential house, I guess, you know, it lives there in the statute, so you have to do it. But, really, the plant isn't really focused on concentration, it's focused on pounds, and it's a relatively small amount of pounds.
That they'll be adding, right?
But the question becomes, do you reduce it down to 300 milligrams per liter, which will drive the pounds down there, or not?
In your bylaw, some reading from, there is a pretreatment standard, as I think you're aware. Pretreatment standard says, all users of the town sewage system shall comply with the most stringent of current national pretreatment standards as set by the EPA, state or local requirements of the limits contained in 360 CMR 10.024. Upon the promulgation of national pretreatment standards for the particular industrial category, it will be the responsibility of the user to comply with all applicable requirements, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the problem here is, there is no industrial category for breweries. So this provision of your bylaw does not apply. As was noted to you in the letter that I sent to you some months ago,
Disagree.
pursuant to the
So what
commission's
you're
vote.
saying is a brewery, there's no standard for the brewery?
Right.
Because it doesn't say brewery there?
Correct.
So they can give us whatever they wanna give us?
No, let me finish.
Oh, well, please do.
Thank you. If the commission substitutes a residential standard, it is something that has meaning, because residential standard are loads that can be computed. And so they can say, okay, we understand, we've got a design to those loads. But those loads, in substituting a residential standard, is a pretty stringent requirement for an industrial user. What I had suggested to you was something a little different. Your treatment plant is built to handle a certain amount of gallons. And it's also built to handle a certain amount of loads. So for every gallon, there's a certain amount of design pounds of TSS, or aluminum, or whatever the parameter is. So what I had suggested to you is that based on 7,500 gallons of sewage, that you allow them to produce that much in loadings as is equal to the design, 7,500 gallons of your plant, which is likely to be, and you two gentlemen can correct me because you're the experts, not me, that's likely to be an easier standard to achieve than a residential standard, because a residential standard is a very high threshold frankly, I'm not even sure you have the authority in the bylaw to go to that standard. You might, but I don't know if you can.
That works until they grow.
Well, here's,
Because then it keeps growing. You know what I mean? Like if.
of course.
Well, that's why we're gonna set it up so that
Of course.
Yeah.
our treatment can grow with them, and if they're ready to go to, let's call it 75,000 barrels a year from the 25 they're at, well then, they're gonna be doing so well that adding in a capital cost of additional treatment to get it down to a level that you guys can live with is gonna be a bigger, they can handle it much better than them getting up and going right now. Because the jump from where they are now to where they're going is substantial. What do you guys do in a year? Barrel?
12,
So,
12,000.
doubling
We
their,
double in production
they're
now.
doubling production, and they're cranking, if you've ever been out to the facility now, they are firing on all cylinders. To try to ramp it up again is a big deal, so, they're just trying to do it smartly, but they're gonna be ready to do it again, cause they're gonna have to.
Can we
double.
legally do a rate thing without the
Well,
privilege fee?
here's the concern I have for you. If you require a standard for pretreatment to a residence, that's not in your bylaw. There's no language in your bylaw anywhere that says that. So I'm not saying you can't do it, I'm just saying I'm not sure you can. Because you have sort of an unusual situation here where you've got an industry that does not have an EPA code. That's really very unusual. Hanging your hat on the design standard gives you a place to stand. It gives, for each gallon, you've got all these different things. TSS, BOD, aluminum, ammonia. And you can say, for every gallon that's produced, there's a design capacity at the plant for those parameters. That's a clear standard. There's no ambiguity about it. And they can design to that standard. Because that standard is going to result in additional load to the plant, which is beyond what's currently coming into the plant. It also gives you a good place to stand from which to say, and we are going to charge you the following fee, privilege fee, because you're adding to the plant. Now, you've all seen that privilege fee. We calculated it. We sent it out to you. If you don't have it, we've got it. But it's a big number. So my concern is if you require them to both design to residential standards of purity, if you will, and you charge them that fee on top of it, I think you're on shaky ground.
Mr. Chairman, based on the premise that we're going to ask a user to balance their gallons in to the gallons that we have available for our plant relative to design. Our plant's a 450,000 gallon design plant. 7,500 gallons represents 1.6%. So if you can reach 1.6%, not 16.4 or whatever the number was, as far as your loaning goes, would be great. But the thing is it's not realistic. Mr. Johnson, I don't think you're gonna be able to get there.
We could
So-
get it down to a household concentration level, but
Right.
as it was pointed out, it's not really the concentration you need to be concerned with, it's the actual loading.
Well,
And it-
correct, which all relatives, the gallons, it all boils down to, is the concentration is in each gallon, which totals to weight. It's all about weight.
Right,
That's fully understood.
Right.
And the thing is as much as some of my brothers here want to try to work the privilege fee, the privilege fee is because this is an oddity to where you're not listed in Title V, because we usually go by Title V.
Sure.
Number of bedrooms, things like that, or what Title V says for seats in a restaurant. Real simple, 35 gallons a seat, you got 120 seats, then it's X amount of gallons. Well, you've come forward and you said, look, we're gonna put it at 7,500 gallons is what we're expecting. So that's what the privilege fee is gonna be based on. And I would say is that how we go forward after that, again, this is totally separate from the loading issue, is that we, as you know, we're requiring a sewer meter, which you're certainly gonna want that.
Yep.
Okay, so that when your average goes from 52.5 a week and that increases by, let's say by 10,000 gallons a day, or up to, or by 70,000 gallons, is it 70?
75.
Yeah, yeah, when it increases, then what's gonna happen is we're gonna say is, look, you gotta come and sit with us, is because the privilege, because now of your expansion, even though your building hasn't grown, you haven't put on more bedrooms, so put in more seats in a restaurant, but what you've done is you've created greater capacity for processing, then we're gonna have to relook at the privilege fee, and we'll try to come up with a very fair and equitable rate for that. But the key thing is I still see it, is as far as, how do we get the loading down? How do we work together to get you open and get you processing? And how do we, or I think with, at least on my side here, I think it is, for me as an individual commissioner, I'm trying to identify your goal of what I think you should be trying to achieve. And that's what we're gonna try, that's what I think, or hoping that you people would try to do. And we have what we call our middle time, to where, once you get on board, things might be going great, and you're saying, look, we thought we were gonna be at this 1,500, we're really down to 620, and we can do a couple little sprinkles of magic dust, and we're already down to 300. So, and again, that's how we make this thing work. At least that's how I see it.
Can I just have two more questions, points. I just need to be dumb here for a minute. And I can't imagine it could be this simple. But if a normal household, just flow, not any of the other poundage or anything that we're talking about. Normal household flow is what?
440.
440 per day?
4-bedroom, yeah.
Okay.
But from a point of view of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
For a typical 4-bedroom household is 440 per day. And we propose to do 7,500 per day, correct? Could it be as simple as to translate that number with the poundage and come up with a number other than 300, which is the normal household level? And if you're all right with 7,500 gallons a day, make that the starting number. I don't, and that's why I'm.
Are we talking privilege fee, or are we talking loading?
I have to tell you, the privilege fee doesn't scare me.
Okay.
So all this talk about the privilege fee can be what it is.
You're just talking about loads.
But
The
and I'm not even
treatment is
gonna, I'm not even gonna
Right.
say that
No,
number,
I-
because the number makes me scared, but it doesn't scare me, it's
Right.
a fee to do what we're doing.
Correct, yeah.
So, everybody pays a privilege fee, and we don't have a problem with paying a
Yeah.
privilege fee, even that number. What scares us is to be treated differently than any other household. If I'm treated the same as a household and I'm discharging 7,500 gallons, then my other numbers should go up accordingly, that I have to adhere to. Because I'm gonna be paying that much rate for my water and sewer. And in my taxes, correct? No? I don't know, that's where I'm stupid.
I think if I can just read it a little bit, I think what he's saying is that if we're gonna get charged a privilege fee equivalent to an X number of homes, then almost shouldn't we be getting the credit of that number of homes loading that would be going into your treatment plant? Because that's what it is essentially, we're taking the
That's what I was
capacity
saying.
Yeah.
out of the town's
But I'm
treatment
not an
plant
engineer.
by saying this plant, this is coming in, and they're equivalent to, let's call it 20 homes that just came out of your plant. And if that's what you wanna base a privilege fee on, well then what is the loading for 20 homes? Is that what you're gonna try to hold us to for an initial treatment standard? And if it is, then at least it's something we can shoot for. I thought our numbers were good, it looked like it still works, but if we gotta move the target again, I just wanna make sure I'm clear on what I'm moving it towards.
Go ahead.
Just a question through the chair. John, a typical household load is something that you can identify. How much ammonia, how much TSS, how much
Yeah,
BOD?
just take, like they said, take 440 gallons times the concentration times 8.34, and that's how many pounds that home is contributing.
So whatever your minimums are, we would just multiply that
So
out.
it's
Right.
roughly
So that's a
7,500 is,
So that's a standard you can translate.
You can translate.
We could translate.
Just like we do our
I think that's what
batches.
Rob's saying, aren't you? That households, that residential standard in terms of loadings, times the gallons, is what they're allowed to produce after pretreatment,
There would be a direct parallel comparison, yes. But I just wanna, just so
And
that.
just
That's a
so,
number you can understand.
Yes.
if you're that much above it, then would be the difference between set amounts.
That would be,
Ver-
that would
it's
be
kinda
treated,
Right.
That'd
And
be
I
your surcharge,
I would hope
right?
it could be that
That would be the
simple, and
sur-
I
that
don't
would be
know
the
that it
surcharge.
can.
and you already have a mechanism to do it, that's the surcharge mechanism.
Does that make sense to you, John?
Yeah, in fact, that's where I thought Kevin was going with his.
Right.
was
Right,
that-
me
Well, I
too.
think
That's
we've
what he
been
asked
saying
about.
the same
Too.
thing.
X amount.
I think we've been saying the same thing.
Right.
And in the event that it's not working, and I gotta tell you, the way things happen at Treehouse, if in 2 years it's not working, we'll put in $1 million thing. I don't, so, God, is that on TV?
Yeah, that's on TV.
Yeah, it's on the.
No, we'll make it work.
Zoom in on that.
No, you know what I mean?
This, just so that you understand the numbers in the sewer world, and Jesse, you can attest to this, is Title V has a safety factor, so that when you value what a typical home is gonna flow, what they usually do is they put the home at, a 3-bedroom home at 330 gallons, that is statewide. Then what they say is, because Title V, the design factor for septic systems, they wanna have protection in there, a buffer. So what it is it's, the design factor is really represents only 60% of the true flow. So if you take 60% of 330, you come up with 198. The state uses 200. What they say, again, but the engineers, what they will do is if they go up and down the street and say how many homes, and say what is gonna be the real number of gallons coming into our plant, is they'll go 200, 200, 200, 200. They won't go 330, 330, 330, because they know that using Title V, there's a safety factor. So if we take your 7,500, which is gonna be actual, versus the actual home, which is 200, really your 7,500, according to Title V design, is 12,500. Because 60% of 7,500 representing 60% is 12,500.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
homes
we're not,
don't,
But we're not going
We're not
there.
adding
homes don't have a
safety
chance to
into it.
equalize. We have a chance to
Well,
equalize.
no,
We can give you a true
Understood.
number.
Understood, that's why we're gonna work together. Okay, so that we can come up with what's gonna work, and also, what's going to be equitable for everybody. Not only for yourself, not only for our department, but also for the rest of the properties out there who are in our design area who haven't yet connected to where we're doing our best to save space for them.
Anybody else have any?
Can I, come from the septic business, and,
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, I just look at it as, if it's a penny a gallon now, or whatever it is, fraction of a cent now, and we charge you 2 cents for every gallon that came out, or 3 cents, it's still 15 or 10 cents cheaper than you're paying, you know. I just look at it like that. Why don't you just charge 2 cents or 3 cents for every gallon he uses? And it's basically like we're our own receiving station right at the headworks of the plant, and he don't have to truck it anywhere.
You're working on me, sorry.
You follow what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So then it just,
prorate it.
yeah, it just becomes a basic, then you can factor in, okay, for every gallon of beer I make, it costs me I look at it as from a business point,
Right,
you're manufacturing. You need,
No, they're gonna put that cost in there. The problem is if we take it, then we have no room for anybody else.
well, that's what I'm saying, I don't wanna
Yeah.
charge him 400,000, 300,000, 200, whatever it turns out to be, and he produces 13,000 barrels of beer instead of 25,000, I charge you for 25,000. If it's just, you buy X, you use X, you pay for X, you know, if you buy 1 cheeseburger, you pay for 1 cheeseburger, you buy 30 cheeseburgers, you pay for 30 cheeseburgers.
Right, but you're talking usage or privilege fee now?
Well,
He's back on the rate thing.
I think the rate thing, you can offset the privilege fee by a higher rate.
They didn't have any problem with the privilege fee.
No, well, listen, what I'm saying is, there's 10 ways to skin a cat. You take the number, okay, whatever the whole number is, 200, 300, 500, $1 million, whatever it is. You break it down, and if it's 5 cents a gallon coming into the plant, we're still gonna get $500,000, let's say, at the end of the term. It's just a different way of doing it. And maybe in
But at
5 years, you guys put your pre-treatment in, and you don't get 5 cents. We charge you 1 cent or 2 cent. So
But
there's
at some
incentive.
point, we're still gonna have to make improvements at our end.
Well, that's
And this
without
is a good
question.
opportunity to take some money to do some of that.
No, I was gonna say, I just did some quick math, you know, the equivalent of their loading as specified is about 80 homes,
80 homes?
so,
Okay.
in terms of pounds.
Right.
So, 80 homes at a 300 BOD is the same as 7,500 gallons at 1,500.
Okay.
That's a standard they can design to, because their engineer knows that equals X amount of pounds of any one of those parameters at any of those loadings. So he can design to that standard, and he can give you back a plan, which John will review for you, and he'll say, okay, based on this design, it's expected that the following loads will be generated by 7,500 gallons.
Because there's
And then
80 homes.
It's the same way, Gabe, as you do with everybody else.
I understand that.
If the loads are higher than the design, they get a surcharge.
But 80 homes comes down to what? 16,000 gallons a day, 17,000 gallons?
No, forget about gallons.
No,
We're
but
talking loads.
I'm talking loads.
We're talking loads.
Because
We're
that's
not
what,
talking gallons.
That's right.
no, but John was
Talking
just
loads.
talking about it. 80 homes equivalent, the loading we're getting, you gotta
Yeah, that
kinda
means
go-
our privilege fee would be almost 700,000. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
656.
Remember, the whole concept of your fee structure is that X amount of gallons is supposed to produce X amount of loads, pounds of different things.
Correct.
And in the case where somebody produces the same gallons but more loadings, that's the surcharge. That's the amount of money they pay extra. That's what East and West is getting hit with. for ammonia.
Exactly.
But
So
you're-
you have a mechanism in place to deal with all this. The standard that they need, which is what standard does the commission want for the engineer to design to? And the standard is, if you pass what you're talking about, is the residential standard, because that's a known number, those numbers per loading.
What's the additional fee on top of it? What's the
400 and-
surcharge?
What is it, Steve?
I thought it was 300.
It's
something.
if you go by 7,500 gallons per day, and if you go by your 200-gallon equivalent dwelling unit at 8,200, correct? It's 307,500.
Okay.
So that's your privilege
Not the
fee.
number we got.
No, you had
Yeah, you guys
318.
said 7,800 by accident, 7,500, that's why.
Yeah, it's 82.
Okay.
Okay, at 200,
And
or,
it's a fair start. It's a fair start.
exactly, at a 300 level BOD rating. So what happens when you take that 7,500 to 1,500 BOD rating? That's what I'm following.
That's a surcharge.
That's what I'm asking. What is the surcharge?
We do it just like we do with everybody else.
What do we do to everybody else? This is what I'm trying to get at. It's the question.
They have that at the plant.
They
The surcharge
report,
is already there.
they report, and remember what John said to you in that letter was that in addition to establishing a standard for loads and what the privilege fee will be, he also recommended that you require monthly monitoring for what's being produced for loads, which will then be reported to them. They will compare it to the residential standard and determine if a surcharge is necessary.
If there's a difference, determine a surcharge.
So every month you do a calculation?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
right
really
now
sure
you
how
do
they're
it-
gonna, discharge it, really, you know, you just wanna, capture a representative sample. You know, how
I mean, right now-
my guess would be you sample a lot up front, you kinda build a
Right.
database, and then you can spread it out as things become more clear.
Right now, we're doing it quarterly for other users, consistent with the billings.
Would make
That-
sense,
that-
if
that
you
would-
have some history.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I'm not
But
mistaken,
you find a big variance from year
don't
to
they
year.
sample at the MTA daily?
No,
No.
no.
How often do they
Twice a
sample?
month.
Twice a month.
You only sample twice a month as far as the loading goes?
Yep.
I thought it was much.
No,
More
we just had
often
this,
than
this just came up in one of the
In
meetings
fact, we're
recently.
changing the sampling to make that flow proportional as well, to make it more representative.
Maybe, I try to keep things on a simple plane. It's the best way. is that, we come to an agreement of what the goal is, and then let you start off to where you wanna start off. But what we have a goal, it's a double goal, one of loading and one of time. At what point in time do we get to where something has to be done? In the meantime, you'll be able to do your things and have an idea. We who will have to, we being the treatment plant who's gonna have to process this additional load, will apply the same application that we do for our other customer, and try to make it, try to be as fair as possible, and also as consistent to what we're already doing for other customers. So, and also, we're aware that you wanna grow, and that this 7,500 might move up to 25,000.
Yeah, could there also be consideration for, it was thrown out that maybe we're 80 house equivalent on our BOD load, but if we pay this full privilege fee equivalent to, it's about 37 homes roughly, does that mean then the other areas, the other constituents that you look for in homes that these guys aren't gonna come up to? It seems like there should be more give and take, that, yeah, the BOD is the worst thing we can point to, and we should get surcharged for that on top of a pretty high privilege fee, but what about the things on the other side that we're not impacting on the loading that would come from a dwelling maybe?
And right now, this is all new process you guys are doing, right?
New process.
It's not really known what everything's gonna be.
The efficiencies aren't.
New
Right.
process to us.
You're-
And-
right.
And we couldn't pull someone else's efficiencies
Right, to
to be able to tell us
verify,
exactly what we're gonna get.
right. There was no relative to production and
No.
fluent.
And to be quite honest, there's hardly any breweries out there that have to report their discharge that they put into sewer systems. This is an anomaly. So we're trying our hardest to try to find other examples. It's not done. And maybe that's because they're on bigger treatment plants and they just don't care. So we'll take whatever you got.
Right.
But it's been hard for us to try to track down somebody with an equal size brewery that has a similar brew house that is, a very special piece of equipment that operates a certain way. It's,
I think what's driving this, and I don't know how much of the conversation you might have heard last meeting with John and the commission, but what's driving this is that for some of those loading parameters, we're already exceeding design capacity. And so taking a large volume, is the brewery will produce 7,500 gallons, is taking a big load into the plant that was not anticipated, which is going to hasten the day when the commission is gonna have to think about what are they gonna do about this, because we're not hitting anywhere near the gallon limit, but we are hitting the load limit in a number of parameters. So that's why the privilege fee has to be assessed, but that's gotta go in the bank, and the commission's gotta start thinking about what are we gonna do?
I have a question, if you don't mind, is on your cleaning process. What are you using for detergents?
We had
yeah, we can give you the MSDS
sent
sheets on it.
all that information.
It's a product that's used throughout the industry. It's pretty standard. There are different manufacturers of them, from the homebrew scale up to the commercial level. They're all similar in their constituents, but I can't spout off all the different chemicals in it.
For instance, it was, we don't know for sure, but earlier this year, in fact, it was at the very end of August, our plant had a hit. What we call a hit is almost all of our bugs were killed, okay? And there was a thought, we don't know this for sure, is this was just before the schools reopened, and we thought that maybe the janitors who go and strip every floor, that stripper went down the drain and possibly could have done it. We don't know that for sure.
Sure.
And again, that was just something that was out there. But the cleaning products are killers.
Well, right now, we're on Title V and our bugs live.
Okay. So,
Our bugs are doing their job.
Yeah.
So, and they have been for the past 2 years. So,
Okay. All right, so you know
our
what I'm
cleaning
talking
products
about.
are designed
Okay.
sustain.
To be bug
those
friendly.
bugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have all of the chemical information, and I thought that we had submitted that months ago.
check.
Months
Yeah,
ago.
I'm sure you did. Thought I saw
Yeah,
something.
months ago, yeah, for sure.
So, Mr. Johnson, what you're talking about is as far as these other items, nitrates and nitrites, am I correct? That 0, 0, that's what will be,
That's what the
Come on.
testing, yeah.
all right. Obviously, you have people who work there, though, and they're gonna have laboratories to use, so that's minimal, though, in relationship to the amount of gallons.
Sure.
So that's what you're saying is as far as looking for some consideration.
Yeah,
It's
the
fine.
testing that we were having over done at Munson, that's one of the parameters they test for, and they're not hitting it.
Yeah.
The same thing with phosphorus.
Yes, the phosphorus was previously in one of the clean in place products they were using, but in moving to the new facility, it's not gonna have any zinc or any phosphorus in the new chemicals.
Yeah, we've changed that.
Okay.
So if I can just leave here tonight, if we at least know, if you guys agree with your consultant's letter that the numbers that we've presented would not do any harm to your plant, and that you could at least function with them, it gives us a starting point to start looking at pretreatment options. Now, if you're saying that, all right, well, we still have to calculate your privilege fee and potential surcharge fees, if that's the concentrations you wanna live with, then we'll leave that up to the lawyers and you guys to negotiate that out. But I need to know as an engineer, cause that's the only hat I'm wearing on this, is if these are good, I'm gonna start running with these until, if something comes back with the fees and they just say, no, the surcharge is too much, you gotta get that down lower, then that's on me. But I need some homework to leave here with. I just wanna see if you guys are in agreement with, the letter that Veolia wrote regarding my letter.
That's the question I asked. Do we know how much the surcharges are?
Yeah, they're done at
Well,
plant.
I know
if
they're
it's
at the,
typical residential loadings,
I understand.
okay?
Can I just
Those are
tell?
numbers that you both understand, and so the surcharges would be the amount of money paid for loads above that. And in terms of what those numbers are, I haven't got the Vegas, but you've
Yeah,
got a
that's
formula.
what they're looking for. They're looking for the rates. You're looking for those rates.
Do you know, how do we calculate east and west?
If I may. Mr.
I can
Chairman,
tell you.
is-
Quickly.
Not now, I don't have it in my head.
To leave here with living with these numbers, my question would be is, what's the time frame for when they've got to start coming down to achieve the goal of bringing them down?
It's gonna, honestly, it's probably gonna be money driven. Whether they
Well,
wanna pay the
obviously,
money in surcharge to give it to you guys, or they wanna put it in themselves and invest in a treatment component that'll bring it down and.
So you need the surcharge rates, so you.
Exactly.
It's really a cost benefit analysis, honestly.
Yes.
It really is.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. If he's gonna pay $1 million, and I'm just throwing a number out there.
Right, correct, and surcharges.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay, if you willing to pay $1 million, then we're done, and life goes on, and hook up and start giving us
But-
what you got. If you're not, then we need to get back to that point.
Well, but Gabe.
But we keep going around and around. I don't feel
Well,
like we
no,
got
it's
any
not gonna-
further
well,
than we did
It's-
half hour ago.
What we have within our bylaws, the ability to tell any user that they need to now meet the standard that's within our bylaw. So, even though we tell them one thing today, is 18 months from now, we can say is, party over, you're gonna now meet the standards. And it's right in our bylaw.
That's
So we
fine,
gotta
but they
be
haven't
clear
even
about
given us
that.
any flows yet, so it's kinda hard
We
to.
already have the flows, they just gave us the flows.
We haven't received 1 ounce of flows.
No, we haven't received their flows. What
Thank
we've done, we have we have the analysis of what their flows are gonna look like.
Potentially,
Potentially, which is 16% of the space that we have left.
potentially. Alright. Can we get all the surcharge rates, who do they need to go to?
They would need to go to Jesse.
Jesse?
Jesse had those rates and, to myself.
Okay.
Well, we have I don't know,
There certainly is
personally, I
contact.
haven't laid eyes on it, but we have to have a surcharge table because we're surcharging east and west.
Right.
That's
So
what I'm
there has to
getting at,
be a chart that says for every pound of this, we
Steve,
charge
do
that.
you, any idea?
I mean, I'm assuming
Just
we're not
ballpark,
making it
real
up.
ballpark.
No, I won't give a ballpark. When I go back to the plant, I give you numbers and send them to you.
Thank you.
I just,
What do you charge for septage? I should know that.
we don't take septage.
Thought in our contract we had the ability to.
Yeah, it's to be determined, we left it
I
open,
apologize.
because we couldn't get full closure, so we just left it open.
Okay,
All right,
fair enough.
excuse me.
What I don't get is how is this not, how do we not all know these numbers by now? That's, I guess, the question I have is.
Well, let's get the numbers out
Again,
there.
this is a pretty simple, straightforward thing at this point. The loads per gallon that are typical to a residential are known for each category. I don't know what they are, but engineers know what they are. You guys have nodded your heads saying,
So,
yep.
so basically,
You,
real
you
quick.
calculate for 7,500 gallons, how much of those loads you're gonna generate. You compare that to the surcharge chart, and you determine we can meet that standard, i.e. we can generate loads that are equal to 7,500 gallons, which do not exceed residential standards, in which case you have no surcharges. You pay a fee, and you pay a privilege fee. You pay a quarterly bill and you pay a privilege fee. On the other hand, if you believe you are going to exceed those residential standards for one or more parameters, then you take that standard times the surcharge fee, and you can compute roughly what it's gonna cost you in surcharges versus treat to, spend more on treatment, to treat to a higher standard. I think that's pretty clear.
Was that,
It's clear, just, I don't even understand how we don't have these numbers
I
already.
understand your frustration. This is our second time in front of the full committee, full
Well, the
commission.
only number we
Right.
don't have, Gabe, is what is the
I don't know.
surcharge
First time was
per
in the
load.
sewage treatment.
oh, was it? Okay.
I don't know
And,
that
and it's
stuff.
our third time in front of a group of water and sewer. And
Yeah, these guys gotta build.
what, just really the frustration is that we need numbers. We need something to go
Well,
by,
you know, in
standards.
fairness to the commission, I think you've made progress tonight, because the
We
commission
have.
has said to you, your
Definitely.
loading standard is residential. If you stay at those loads, you pay your quarterly bill for sewage.
Right.
You pay your privilege fee, you're done.
And
But
that,
if you exceed those loads, you're going to be charged for the excess according to a schedule.
Residential multiplied by the 75,000. Is that the residential?
Yes.
That's what we're talking
and
Low
that's the
price,
surcharge calc for everybody, just wanna understand, that's how you do
It's
for
the same
their
way
other
we're doing it
industrial
for other
users.
customers.
Yeah, that's all, we just wanna,
Right.
we weren't aware of what the process was for your surcharge in
That's
town.
what I'm saying, I
That,
think you've
going
made
back,
some progress.
going back to
tonight.
what you were questioning earlier, that way it keeps fair and equitable for
Yeah,
all
exactly.
customers across the board, and there's no,
Cause we hadn't really talked
No,
about
that's fair
surcharge
enough.
yet,
fair
so I didn't know how it was done, and, you know, I don't know if you have, someone that might have zinc from a dry cleaner in town, how you know, assess them, or if you deal with them, or whatever. So
I
there's,
don't know if we have that, but I can tell you that I know east and west is public information, because it's been discussed at this commission meeting twice now. Their surcharge for the last quarter, I believe, was $100,000.
okay,
So, there is a computation we do to get to that number.
okay.
We just don't happen to have it here with us, and I apologize, didn't know it was
That's-
gonna come up.
That's okay, and then I'm assuming in subsequent, if we can get guidance on design, which I've got somewhere I can start from now, the money will hopefully flush out in the next couple of weeks, so that'll maybe even drive what we're doing here, cause that's you and me offline talking about that. Then I would think, moving forward, we'll come back with sampling plan, which I'm assuming you'll have reviewed, talk about some of the measurements, it was also mentioned to supply a standard operating procedure. And once I know what we're doing for treatment, I can provide some more details on what that would be. And then some things like I had thrown out there, maybe measuring by COD rather than BOD, because we can get a 2-hour turnaround on our test results versus 5 days. And sometimes you can actually do them at the same time, and you can see that they typically are within
Exact-
like a 0.6 or 0.7 of
Yeah,
each
well,
other.
If you were gonna move to that, I would suggest you set up a ratio, like you'll establish what the ratio.
Right, that's what I'm
First.
saying, you
Okay.
monitor them.
Right.
It's usually like 0.6 to 0.7, somewhere in that range. That way, it'll help them. They can do it actually at the treatment plant. They can monitor their COD pretty easily, and that'll help them to see if they're getting too hot or if they're, you know, how they're
does
doing.
that make sense to you, John?
Yeah, it's not, the point of this, you need to establish what their ratio between the two are.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it's a good indication of what the BOD would be, but you would need to establish, I wouldn't use an industry
Not off the
standard
bat.
on it.
No,
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 that's what I'm
it-
saying,
it-
we would
it'd have
test
to be
them
real world.
all at the same time. That way, after 5 days, the horse is already out of the barn, you can't fix a problem after 5 days, you wanna be able to fix it in real time if you have something.
Yep.
So just, and then obviously, we wanna be metered at, with our sewer going out, not the water coming in. Wanna find out if you have a certain sewer meter in town that you like, that other people have, or if you don't, then we
Well,
can
the
give
water
you.
would be metered.
It would be as well, but we don't wanna be billed on the water coming in,
Correct.
you,
Yeah,
we want
sewer
it-
exemption.
cause our product is beer.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of waste
Probably
for
have
most
two-
people.
You'll probably have two sewer meters.
Right.
You know, one for your brewery waste and then one for the, you know what I mean?
Why, you just take the
Well,
difference?
no,
Yeah, I
no,
think we
yeah,
can do
you'll
one.
have- You'll have one, yeah.
Yeah, I
just
think we
take
could
the-
just do
Take
one.
the difference between the water
Water
use.
in and water out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
So some of those details I'm thinking we would iron out in subsequent
no.
meetings.
Because if they're brewing beer, you're gonna need two, cause you're gonna, the beer's going out the door, they're buying water to brew the beer.
Well,
The
that's-
beer's not going down the sewer.
That's why we're saying we don't wanna be billed on the water.
Yeah.
For sewer usage, so they'd have a water bill and a sewer bill, and it'd be the difference.
But there's two, because there's sewer from the bathrooms and everything else, and then there's sewer for the brewery waste.
I think I'll mix it all in one pipe.
Yeah,
At
it's
the
all
end
one
of the
pipe.
process, it all goes down the drain.
Yeah, we
Right,
might,
figure
Except
it
for the
out,
stuff
sure.
that goes out in the
Right,
beer.
it'd be the difference between the water and sewer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be able to do it that
Well,
way.
if you're gonna sewer, if you're gonna meter the sewerage. with a
Going the effluent out of
You're
the,
gonna get billed on
Right.
whatever gallons they pump to that meter, and water's gonna be metered for water, they're gonna pay water bill based on whatever gallons they use.
I know, I know.
2 meters.
It's all gravity.
Hmm?
Your system's all gravity.
the sewer system is.
Yeah, it's all
But
gravity
if we're
at
gonna
this
be
point.
doing some dosing,
Yeah, if
Oh,
there's
no, if
gonna
you're
be
gonna
some
be doing that, that's
equalization and
different
all that
stuff,
kind of
right.
stuff,
Yeah.
it will be
Right.
we'll
pumped.
bring pumps
Yes.
into it.
Those are internal.
alright,
Okay.
so, you're gonna get those, the chart for the fees? Emailed up, the surcharges, thank you.
Not that we're trigger happy, but just understand at some point in time that enough's enough, we can just say, you're gonna meet, rather than just pay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
With some,
Yeah,
some amount of time to get it
Of course,
implemented,
of
yeah.
Yeah,
of course,
I
but
would
you know the
say
goal
that
we're trying to
at
bridge.
some amount of time, we're
Yeah,
not gonna wanna
yeah.
pay. You
Right.
know, at some point, putting in a good capital investment into a pre-treatment center,
And we would, that
or a
would make,
treatment center
that
would make
work
more
well.
sense than,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just like having a tight tank,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, a tight tank works to a certain gallonage, and then all of a sudden,
No
you
good.
gotta make it happen. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. By the way, I was over at your treatment plant. Your agenda says at the treatment plant tonight. I was over at the gate. I even
Sorry.
opened the gate. I'm like,
The,
this doesn't seem right.
You shouldn't get the memo.
That's why I was late, and I was changing the sweeper arm on the canning line. Sorry. Really sorry.
Apologies for that.
No, that's
One
okay.
of those
I
things
found it.
where
I
had
was just
a half
glad
an
you
hour
guys were
job
still
that turned
running.
into an
It's
hour
tough
and a
when you have a lot of people, it's tough to cram into that office down there, people standing up, it's kind of a circus.
So you guys feel good? A little more headway or closer?
Yeah,
A couple
I
beers, they'll feel better.
I do. I feel this, at the end of this meeting, I feel,
So you're gonna know the
Better than I
worst,
have.
and you're gonna know the best.
Yeah.
And it's up to you guys where you wanna be in between.
right.
Does that make sense? Right?
To a point.
So, easy as that?
Yeah, and if I
You
could,
get to figure that one out.
no, and that's it. If I do some, some pencil math and everything, kind of figure out what the equivalents are for houses and trying to estimate the surcharges. If I could send out an email to somebody to confirm, obviously loop in everybody just to get that back so that I can report back to Treehouse and say,
For you.
this is what you got, guys. This is, if we hold to the levels we initially presented, here's our surcharge, here's your privilege fee. If we wanna go to the next level of treatment, X number of dollars gets it in, drops your surcharge. I can give them, basically a business plan on how to attack it and see where they wanna go.
That'd be great, guys. We just wanna get this rocking and rolling, and like you said, and roll, and then once we start rolling, figure out where we are.
Dial it in.
Yeah.
Well, we wanna make sure we got it for
Yeah.
you in the future. We wanna grow with you, so.
Right.
When
It may be a very, very good thing for the town. Are we off camera?
Nope.
Nope, good.
We're never off.
My water cup.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Look forward to being a customer.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
I was told I could do that.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
All right. Let's see, we're all set with you? I don't have to hold you up anymore.
No, I've got nowhere to be.
Okay.
Just the status report on the SSOs, John, was there anything you wanted to say on that before you go? 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly, describe what we walked into, a situation where we had no indication that we had a problem. And basically because of that communications problem, the parent PLC failed, so it shut everything down. And the child PLC just said, everything's great, no reason to send an alarm. A little frightening that that's the architecture that was in place, but it's been corrected.
Okay.
So, we're in a much better spot. We don't believe any of it made it into the brook at all. We believe we captured it all on trucks where they had to vacuum it all up. We wrote the report, submitted it to
Right.
DEP, and haven't heard nothing since. But disappointing, certainly.
Well,
Real quick,
I mean, on our end.
real quick, John, before you take off. Going back to what they said about, if they put the infrastructure down at our plant, as opposed to them up in their, and the way I look at it is they can spend money way better than we can.
Yeah, it's always cheaper to treat it at the source.
You know-
I think the engineer's point that he needs to do an economic, it's gonna come down to economics. Are you
Yeah.
gonna pay for you treating it or pay for treating himself? And it's always cheaper to do it there.
Cause I can't
Once
see,
you hit a certain threshold.
yeah, I mean, I can't
Because
see
there's
us,
17 times the strength of a household.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever calculation it's gonna be times 17. I just did some quick math,
so, but for right now, we're,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to be frank, that's why I asked the question about septic. You're talking about 2 septic loads a day
right.
in terms of loading. I mean, you were to take in septic 2 trucks, I mean, that's relatively,
And
That's a
it's
couple
well within the
$1,000.
realms of what we're able to
in terms of.
treating right now. Okay.
I mean, your point, Kevin, about the other constituents being a concern, true, but unfortunately for you, it doesn't apply because they're not bringing any ammonia. If they were taking in ammonia, I would recommend nothing but treatment, because you really can't afford to take in any
Right.
more ammonia.
All right.
that was the only thing that you probably needed John for.
Yep.
and you don't think there's nothing you could probably do for $500,000 down there that would lower TSS at BODs
There or at our place?
at our place?
Not TSS, well, I mean, you could,
Cause those are
I
the two,
mean, you're gonna remove it and capture and bring it out in sludge, so,
Yeah.
it's really, you don't, everything gets converted to sludge.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
and then it becomes a disposal some other place. They're gonna have to look at, if they remove the BOD, they're gonna produce sludge, and they're gonna have a cost associated with disposing it themselves.
correct.
So, there's just no free lunch, it doesn't evaporate.
No, and I don't think it can be done, but I'm just trying to kind of weigh the pros and cons. Like if we can receive the money and upgrade the plant in a very useful way, fantastic. But if it takes us $3 million to do that simple thing, it ain't worth it.
Yeah, no, I think the load they're gonna discharge initially, you probably won't even see it, we won't even feel it per se. So that additional revenue, I think, is beneficial to you,
Mhm.
certainly. I think once they start getting above that, it starts to get a little bit concerning. A, one, because I don't have the history of the plant, but B, you're approaching that 75%
Right.
capacity. And that's just, you just don't wanna be there if you don't have to be, particularly at the lower floors.
Excellent. Thank you.
And where would you get the $500,000 to put in the treatment plant?
If that's what the betterment, the privilege fees and surcharges come up to.
We're in the negative as far as financing the improvement that was done to the plant in 2007. was almost a $3 million improvement, and it was all to come from privilege fees, and I believe we still had a negative balance. So, we need
Okay.
privilege fees.
All right. You have administrator's report?
I do.
Can we run through that quick? Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, John.
ID badges are being scheduled, working with the town administrator, because the Viola staff is now full, so we know what we've got there, and we'll set that up. EJP will be into the plant January 3rd to the 5th to conduct cross-training and meter reading. There was a motor vehicle accident eastbound on Route 20, the 20th of November. Can't find out who the insurance carrier is. We've tried multiple avenues. We have filed a claim with our insurance company, so we'll see what they do.
That's the hydrant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There's a proposed schedule for next year's meetings on the back. Any questions, comments, or whatever, edits would certainly be appreciated.
I got one thing for you to add to that. This is your legislative history books, which I thought I was gonna be giving you tonight, but the printer screwed up one section of it, so we gotta fix that. But sometime between now and your next meeting, I'm hoping to have them done, and they'll be down at the office for you. Steve or I'll give you a shout, let you know. And what this thing is this, all the laws that have been adopted over time that apply to you, so in one place, in one book, you're gonna have every law that applies to you. So if you wanna look something up and say, do we do that, can we do this, it's all gonna be in one place for you.
That, you said that should be by next meeting? The ninth?
Should be, yeah, if we can, Steve and I can find an hour of time to go literally pull things out of the books and put the right thing back in, to be all set.
Question, is the privilege fee votes in there?
You know, yeah, but when you guys were talking about tonight, I was wondering, because I don't think so, and I'm wondering if that got done a long time ago, because this only goes back to, I think, 2007. So any legislation adopted before that isn't in here, and I took it straight out of the town clerk's records from every single town meeting vote.
It would have been, again, it would have been minutes of the meeting.
All right,
That's where the vote takes place.
we'll have to find out, if you can narrow it down at all, we can go in the minutes and find
So
it.
it's not in, okay.
Because, yeah, I don't think it's in there, Rob, is the short answer, but it should be, because that's obviously important.
Okay.
Back up for a second. I should have written it down. Steve, in your report, I gave you a call at the end of last week about the fire hydrant up on North Main Street.
Yep.
What about it?
The same thing that Alex asked several months before. The hydrant is being rebuilt. It's down in Southbridge.
No, it's back up, I think.
Well, when I had called,
It's up tonight.
okay, then it's been
You talking
rebuilt.
North Main Street, right here on the corner?
L. Stevens Road and
Yeah.
L.
Main Street.
Stevens Road?
Yeah.
Okay, because it was
No.
gone.
Yeah,
been gone
it's
for
back-
months.
Okay,
it's back up.
so so it was being rebuilt?
Yep.
And you found out about that when? Did you know that when I called you?
No, I didn't put
Okay.
two and two together.
Okay.
When I called them, and they said, that's the hydrant we talked about months ago, and that's,
And Alex, why was it rebuilt? Was it malfunctioning or did someone hit it?
No, someone probably hit it.
Okay, because there's a fire hydrant no more than, less than 100 feet away from that one. It's right at the corner of H.
Cool.
Putnam Road
Yeah.
in there. Do we really need that one?
Sometimes it's for flushing, if
Yeah,
there's
you-
certain
It's gonna get hit
connections.
again, that's all.
It is what it is, Rob.
Well, I'm just saying,
All right,
it's sticking out there.
so that completes your report, Steve?
yes, sir.
All right. Moving on to interim controller transition plan contract.
I gave you guys a memo tonight, it was on your pile, when you came in, and it's every, pending project. So, you can do one of two things with this. If you want work done by me after the first of the year, then consider that every couple of months I try to do a report for you. If If on the other hand, you don't want that done, then you can consider that a end of my contract report, and then that'll become a checklist for somebody else to pick up on and start doing that work. Now, apologize I couldn't get it out to you sooner, because I would have preferred everybody had a chance to read it before tonight, but there's a lot there. What I will tell you is that I was kind of surprised when I put it all down on a piece of paper, how much stuff is going on. So just be aware of the fact that there is a lot of work still ongoing, that you've got to figure out what it is you want to have done and who you want to have do it. So my contract is up in 2 weeks, on 31st. I'm happy to work past that, but that is up to you, gentlemen.
I'd just like to, I think Joe should be here and there should be a full board,
Agreed.
review. God forbid if it went 2 and 2, you know what I mean, or something, you know what I mean, whatever, we'd just be left in a pickle here. You're by the week, by the whatever anyways, right, so?
No, my contract ends on the 31st, and I cannot work for you past that date unless you do something. If you don't,
So worst comes to worst is if we say, okay, you get an extra week of vacation, and then, it goes back, we pick it back up, you just come in the week after, right?
yeah, exactly. Yep.
On the ninth, after the 9th?
Okay. I personally think we should wait for Joe. Is everybody gonna be here in the next meeting? Wow,
Hopefully.
God willing, right?
We didn't know tonight.
Again,
We didn't know if you were coming.
God willing, agreed.
You've gotta be careful getting your mail. I mean, poor soul of Bill Krakowski, went to
Yeah.
get his mail.
I know,
Lived there for
I
40
know.
years, got his mail 6 days a week. Goes out to get his mail and gets killed.
Well, I think we'll have to just
Oh.
roll with the 4 members then, if that.
Yeah.
It's just my 2 cents. Whatever
Okay.
the board wants to do.
Can you
Fine,
send that
fine,
out
okay.
electronically?
What's that, I'm sorry?
Do you have this electronically?
Yeah.
Can you send that out to the
Sure.
board, so?
And that'll give us some time to review it and,
Yep.
Alright. Old business, North Sturbridge Road pressure test status.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Right now, I'm getting information from the pump company as far as the pump demands based on the head. So, I know it's pretty much imprinted here on the agenda, so let's bring it up at next meeting, okay?
Alright, Steve, can you carry that over to the next agenda? Status of water regulation for resident engineer inspection.
Just wanna let you guys know, we've got that regulation, gotta figure out where it's going in this book, but as soon as, I get a few minutes to do that, we'll get it in that book. And when you get those books, it will be in there, okay?
Okay.
You need, I believe, a new regulation, Joe brought this up. Right now, whether it's a regulation or a policy, we're not sure, because we can't find it in writing anywhere, except maybe it's in the minutes. Part of the problem here is, you've got a lot of policies that have been done in the minutes over the years, but they haven't been put in one place, so they only exist in our minds. Now, the policy book that you've got, which is one of my projects I never got to, is not really, it's only got a few policies in it. Other than that, it's got all sorts of stuff. It's got how to do how to update Vadar to put in a new account. They're not policies of the commission. So Steve tells me that there is a policy, we can't find it in writing, that says that if you are a homeowner on EDU, bedroom count, and you want to switch to a meter, that you can come in and you can get a free meter. Now, yes. Now, unfortunately, people come in, they get free meters, but then they don't put the meter in. So, we have issued over the years, lots and lots and lots of meters to the tune of, and these meters, by the way, don't get paid for. The idea, by the way, I'm told, was that it created an incentive for people to get on a metered system, because you want everybody on meters, in fairness. And invariably, almost invariably, bedroom counts makes people pay more money than the meter do, because once the meter goes in, their bill almost invariably drops, and that makes kind of intuitive sense why. So lots of people, for whatever reason, come in, they get the meter, they fill out the card, it goes up to the plumbing inspector's office, but then they never go up to the plumbing inspector, get the permit, and actually install it. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because in the course of perfecting the billing file, we found a lot of these meter cards, meters that have been drawn, but they hadn't ever put the meter in. It caused us a lot of problems because we presumed somebody takes a meter, they put it in. In point of fact, they still on an EDU, so we did cross-referencing with the plumbing inspector's files. So we need a policy in writing that says when a person comes in, they take a meter, the following things happen so that it never falls through the cracks again. In other words, it gets reported back for billing purposes. The other problem is I think the commission needs to repeal that policy because you've given out somewhere around $11,000 or $12,000 worth of meters that we've never been paid for and have never been installed. So that's $11,000 or $12,000 that is gone out of the system, that is a direct hit to the ratepayers.
I thought you had to be on the sewer line prior to 2007
Yes.
in order to get a free one.
Yes, correct. That's the
Yes.
policy.
Well,
Which is which is basically almost everybody who's on a
okay,
bedroom
it's
count.
more than I was thinking then.
No.
So I actually found a person, I won't say who it was, because that's not important, but I found a person who took a meter and didn't put it in the course of investigating all this. And I said to the person, why didn't you put it in? And they said, well, I never get around to it. And I said, well, it would have saved you a lot of money. And I said, yeah. So right now, the policy is if somebody comes in tomorrow and asks Steve for a meter, he's got to give it to him for free.
If,
And we've got lots of people who don't put them in, so you need to change the policy and not give any more free meters out. That's why this is on here, so that if I'm with you past January, I'll write it for you. If I'm not, you need to get somebody to write a
Mr. Chairman?
policy.
Mr. Chairman, if my memory serves me right, going back to days when Sandy was here, that there was a period of time to where you had a specific set time. There was a deadline date, that if you wanted to come in and get a meter, then fine, because after this date, then there were $250. The number 250 comes to my mind. Somewhere in the minutes of the meeting, that is there. Meters aren't free. They shouldn't be free. They were never free, once that date came by. That's my recollection, Steve.
Wait, see, that's the problem I'm illustrating here, guys.
Yeah, no, you've got to go
When
through
you
the
take
minutes
a
of the
vote,
meeting.
when you take a vote and it's instructive to the staff to do something, that should become a written policy that goes in a book, so that we don't have to look over 10 years of minutes to find it. It's in the book. The problem is, you've taken lots of votes like that, but they never got written into a policy and put in a book, so we don't know where to start looking for that.
Mr. Chair, Sandy's blue notebook.
That's the one I've got.
Did you bring it back to the plant?
It's out my car, but yes.
Okay, put it back down there, and let me take a look at it when I go in.
Well, it's not there, I guarantee you. I've gone through the whole thing.
Okay, but there's other
about-
things there,
There's
though.
about 5 or 6 pages of actual policies,
Okay,
and the rest of it is all sorts of miscellaneous junk.
okay.
Okay.
Again, I believe, Mr. Chairman, that somewhere in the minutes, back in '06, '07, maybe beginning of '08, it's in there. Paul, that's
Well,
what
it wouldn't be
What do you
back to
call that,
06?
too?
Yeah.
Would probably a 2-year limit to,
Right,
if you didn't
because you
get
were
one by
here a
then.
year before I was.
Yeah.
Well, you said it was everybody who tied in prior to '07, right?
I'm not sure of the date, but I know that the sun would set on the free meter.
I get that part, but so we can look in the right place. If you're talking 2 years,
It's
it
called the
wouldn't,
minutes.
Well, just understand, if you're gonna ask somebody to look at 2 years' worth of meeting minutes to find that is a lot of time.
Yep.
And you definitely don't wanna pay me to do that.
Steve, did you have a comment?
You use word search on Word, okay, and that will help. You'd be surprised what you can find.
If the minutes are in Word and you have that version, then you could look. But based on what I've seen, I wouldn't wanna bet any significant money on it.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with what you're talking about, because I use it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I get a body of Word documents and I wanna find something, one of them,
Yeah.
I find it, nothing flat, but I don't think your minutes are in that, so. Anyways, just
Okay.
wanna let you know about that.
electrical services inspection?
We did that, I think, knock on wood, everything's good.
Talked about the September, December
We're good.
SSOs, it's done.
The tablets at meetings, I have not had 5 minutes to work
That's
with that,
fine.
guys. So, just, you know, it's on the list of things to do. It won't get lost, it's on that, if you keep that list, that's a list of every single thing that's pending right now.
The duplex
They
project?
have not come in with any plans yet, unless they file them this morning. So as soon as they come in with plans, we will get them
That's
to
the one
be
from a
able to
couple weeks
review.
ago?
What's that?
That's the one from a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Last meeting, I believe.
Now, what are we're just waiting for a plan?
I was waiting for plans.
Plans, all right, but what we do have is we have a commitment for.
To allow them
For
to
how
tie
many
in.
EDUs?
14, 15, something.
14, 15. What
you
comes
signed-
to-
It
Comes
was like
comes to
73,000.
143,000, but who cares? Who cares? My point is the next thing that needs to get done is that it's gotta get recorded up with the assessors in the
It's in
collector.
the assessor's hands.
Okay, perfect, good.
Okay.
Because everything else, then Mr. Garfield that's on him. What was
Yes.
on us
Is done.
He's done.
is done.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Master water plan bids and review.
So, we, the chairman, town administrator and I interviewed 3 companies. We've got 3 proposals: Beta Group, Dewberry, and Tata and Howard. The lead company was Beta. After those interviews, we opened the proposals, and Beta was also the low bidder. And I give you the bid prices. Beta was $76,500. Tata and Howard was, $170,500. I'm doing math in my head, that's a scary thing. And Dewberry was $120,000. So compare Dewberry to Beta, 76.5 versus 120, and Tata and Howard were much more. So Beta was the recommended company on the basis of qualifications, presentation, all that, and they were the low bidder, which is what you always hope for, because if the preferred company is not the low bidder, you got a whole bunch of things you gotta do in order to make that legal. But in this case, Beta was the low bidder, and they were, the preferred company. So, typically what you do is you make a recommendation to the chief procurement officer to award the contract to Beta to allow them to get working.
What are they doing?
That's the master plan.
Okay.
What we voted on.
Yeah, a couple months ago there or whatever.
And it is important to award it because they've gotta do 10 pressure tests, and that means blowing hydrants, which they can only do on a warm day, because otherwise they turn the road into an ice skating rink, and they're not gonna do that. So, the faster we get this awarded and notification to proceed, the faster they're gonna be able to get out there and do them. You probably recall Chris McClure has said to you on a couple of occasions, he's very worried about the current model that we're using for design of the new extensions and all that, the
ExxonMobil's.
hydrological model. No, not hydrological.
Yeah, this comes out of that 250 from DEP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So how does that work? Do they just pay them directly, or does it come to us, we pay them, and then we get refunded? Or does that go through? Did we get the money yet?
I'll have to justify the payment.
Okay.
So as we move along, I'll draw down on it.
Okay. But it's guaranteed, everything's good?
So the hydraulic model, Chris has said to me on many occasions, I think he said it to you guys as well, needs to be updated. So those 10 pressure tests that they're gonna do at hydrants is gonna give them the data to update the hydraulic model, which is gonna be good for getting all this work done. But then secondarily, we're gonna pass it over to ExxonMobil so that they can be sure they're using correct data for design, because, there's some concern there. So we need to get this thing done. That's the bottom line.
I'll make a motion to, I guess, we accept a little bit of,
To award the master plan to Beta Group.
make that motion.
If anybody wants a copy of it, by the way. Anyone? Because this is what they're gonna be doing for you for the next few months.
The sewer plant, we can
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
on the plan. Yep.
Yes, motion, do I have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
Can chairman make a second?
Absolutely.
You sure?
It's in Robert's rules.
Really? You sure?
Positive.
Open for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. And now, the master plan is a master plan for
Let me just read the
for
most
developing a water
important,
system?
let me read the most important statement in here that I
Okay.
will hopefully convince you that this needs to be moved on quickly. Among the other things that they are doing, they are going to do the following for you. Draft an application to DEP for Charlton to become a public water supply. Incorporate into the application water system funding plan and operating budget provided by the interim controller. Estimate rates required to support the operating and capital budgets. Prepare a capacity assessment chapter and water supply business plan in accordance with Mass DEP guidelines as part of the public water supply application process. In other words, all the work they're doing leads into the application to DEP for you to become a public water supply. No study, no application, you're not gonna be a public water supply. It's as simple as that. So I just took a huge giant document and shriveled it down to 30 seconds. I could talk all night about all the things they're gonna do in here, but you guys have seen this before, and you've approved it, and you voted to issue it. DEP is expecting you to do this. If you don't do this, you will not get a public water supply permit.
And then public water supply would be, working toward, consecutive water system?
That is it.
Defining our own
That's it.
source or something? and
No,
becoming-
that's it. That's the permit that
That's it.
makes you a public water system.
Do you know how long that's good for? Like, if-
It's good forever.
Like, this work here?
What's good forever?
So-
What are you asking me, Gabe?
We got a tentative goal of, let's say, this summer. I hope it works. But if it's next year or the year after, you know what I mean? Let's be realistic. You know, is that we're not gonna have to do this again, are we?
No,
I mean,
typically.
you know what I mean? We got a couple
typically-
year window with this.
Typically, what happens is about once every 10 years,
Okay.
usually when you're doing something, DEP will say, when's the
They're
last
looking for
time
the
you did?
comprehensive master
Right,
plan.
when's the
Okay,
last time?
that's fine.
Same as a comprehensive wastewater
There's only
management
certain
plan.
things they usually look.
There's no set time, but when you come up from on your NIPD's permit, and you haven't done your comprehensive, your CWMP,
Yep.
they'll make you update it.
Yeah, I just
Same thing with water.
don't want the thing only good for a year and then.
No.
Oh, no,
back here,
they're
so
good
we
for a
don't-
long time once you're doing it. Remember, the whole point of this, guys, starting in July-ish of next year, you're gonna start connecting people up to the tune of $2,000 a pop, or more. If you are not a public water supplier by that point, then that fee goes to Southbridge, you lose it. Now, you do get 10% of it, you get $200. So figure all those users, you're gonna lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. Now, Southbridge's gonna be very happy to have it, they're gonna say, thank you very much, we really appreciate it. And then if you become a public water supplier the next year, guess what? You don't have the money, but you now have all the bills. This would be a catastrophe for the water sewer department, because you'd have the responsibility to do all the maintenance that money was supposed to pay for, but you don't have the money, and you can't get it back. Once they've got it, it's gone. So there are hundreds, if not millions of dollars at stake here, fellas.
I thought I heard forever, that's how long these things are good for? Well, we already have one.
No, they're not good forever.
Okay, we have one in 2007, okay, but, we got approval from DEP, be a consecutive water provider. We already have that. I'm just being as simple as possible. What is our expected water rate that we're gonna have to pay to Southbridge at the town line or at the meter pit? That's the first question. And then we have to do the arithmetic. The arithmetic is the cost of the water,
Look,
what we plan to sell it.
There's two parts of this.
Well, no,
Rob.
please just let me finish, Is because the only way we can operate a water company, all right, is we need income. And the income that we can obtain is a differential between what we buy something for and what we sell it for. So,
Understood.
we have no, and if in fact the cost, and again, coming to memory from Weston and Sampson back in '06 or '07, the cost was somewhere between $130,000 and $150,000 a year to operate a water company. They have an operator, part-time, people as far as doing different tasks, laws, things like that. So the question is, it's a simple question, is what are we gonna have to pay for the water? Because the last thing I wanna do as a commissioner is go and go to, my fellow neighbors and friends and say, guess what? We're now a water company, and you know what's happened? We've now increased your water bill so that we can say that it's a Charlton Water Company. That's the only answer I want. I don't, to go and spend a low of, I don't know, $60,000 or $70,000 to give us information that fine, it's information, but it's not the information we need to make a decision of whether or not we're gonna pull the trigger to become a consecutive water operator.
Can I add, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, real quick? Rob, I agree with you, but I'm also gonna say this one thing too, is that information can, if we build this water system in 5 years, is still good. If we build that, in 2 years, it's still good. If we build that in a year, ExxonMobil's gonna need some of it. It's not $250,000, it's $76,000. Or whatever, what was it? 75?
76,000.
76,000. I don't think, you gotta move forward to that DEP window anyways. I mean, if this was $250,000, I'd have all the reserve in the world. I think at $76,000, you gotta move in that direction. If you don't do it now, that possible window of this summer is closed. Maybe it happens, maybe it
It doesn't
doesn't.
have to happen in the summer. I agree that even if we were to accept this evening, and by the time you get done with the contractual agreements that have to go on, you're looking at 30 to 45 days. It's gonna be mid to late January, and you're gonna be doing hydrant blow-offs? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's not gonna
Why?
happen. Because of the weather conditions.
We do
You're gonna go and
we
flood
do
a street.
hydrant flow tests all year round, Rob. You wait for a
Well,
warm
again,
day.
you may have rivers to where you can put hoses on and things like that.
Can't
But,
discharge into a
but the
river.
hydrant blow-offs that I've seen in our town is they let it go and it ends up in the street. My friend was saying to me, God almighty, I just washed my truck, it's the middle of July and now it's dirty because I drove through the center and I had a river of water.
Okay.
So, and it just, again, roads freeze.
Let operations figure out operations.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
One other point is these three companies, all, I'm sure, very viable companies, it doesn't say this bid is good for 30 days. How long is it gonna take to go from Charlton to Southbridge to negotiate a water rate? Is it gonna take 1 week, 2 weeks, or is it gonna take a day? Or is it gonna take 3 months? I say we do
I don't
not
know.
move on any of this until we find out what the water rate is.
Duly noted.
Simple.
I just don't think that hurts even anybody who operates our system or anything.
We don't have a system.
We have a system, it's run by Whitewater right
That's
now.
right.
But what I'm getting at is, we have fluctuations, we have issues, we might, have new tanks coming online. So even if we have a Whitewater and they continue to be our operator, that's not bad information.
Right.
So let's look at it from that aspect, because you are 100% right about the rate. And I agree with you there, and that is such a pivotal, strong point. But we also gotta take into account, there's a lot of pro sides to this that can get done in parallel. And I think really needs to be evaluated a little bit. And it's DEP, it's some free money that, not free money, I mean, we all pay it as a taxpayer, but it's some grant money that I think is at a pretty reasonable rate.
Yeah, it's going to a good cause,
And it's going for a good cause. I mean, I was in agreement, I was with you.
All right, this is the other point I wanna make. money that DEP is holding out there for us, that went through the mass legislature, it's a broad description of what it's for. I would rather see money, first of all, is the end goal of our commission should be relative to water, is that we find our own supply, and then we develop our own
This is
supply.
only $75,000.
Hold on.
You can build upon that, though.
We can add to this, can we not?
We develop our own, we first find an area and we go and search to find our own supply. We find our own supply, then what happens is, yes, it takes 3 to 5 years to develop it. We could be using that grant money, again, to be going towards that development, which may cost, again,
And we still
sometimes
left
it costs
money in there, Rob.
It costs millions of dollars. Look, the money that's in there comes from taxes that you and I pay. I don't wanna spend any money that's not necessary.
Okay.
That's how I
Duly
look at
noted.
it.
Duly
That's how I
noted.
look at it. And the thing is this statement of, it's not our money, what do we care? No, it belongs to.
Who made that statement?
I've heard that statement multiple times,
From who?
from multiple times. I've heard it from people in this room, okay? And again, I've heard it from a member of the Board of Selectmen. It's not our money, what do we care? No, I care. I do care. The
Okay.
thing is, it's the direction we need to go in the next 30 days. Go to Southbridge and get the rate. When you get the rate,
Your
then
point is duly noted. We need to move on this.
Okay, because when we get the rate, then we'll make a decision of whether or not
When we
we
get
want
the
to
rate,
charge
we
it.
can't become consecutive if it is a viable rate.
Yeah,
We've
well,
already gone through this.
If it's a
We need all
viable
these
rate, then
things
we
put in
immediately,
place.
we immediately turn to these companies, whether it's 30 days or 45 days from now, and say, we finally made our decision. And let them tell us, oh, no, I can't do it now. I doubt it. I doubt it.
Okay.
But the thing is, I think we're making a $76,000 mistake, $500 mistake here, unless we know what the rate is and we're gonna step forward as becoming a consecutive water supplier.
Okay, duly noted.
I'm done.
Ms. Craver?
Hi, thank you. I would highly recommend that the commission move forward with this now. The deadline for this, this work to be completed is in February. There's reasons why, and Gabe, you're absolutely correct, that you will lose that window. And not only will you lose the window to become a consecutive water system, because you need to be building your infrastructure in tandem. And by infrastructure, I'm talking about the organizational piece that this is going to be giving you. The other piece is, Mr. Lemansky, I think you would be incorrect. I think that what I'm hearing from you is to take this money and bank it for a later date. You're not going to be able to do that. If you don't use this money now for this purpose, you're going to lose the money. I can tell you that DEP has already contacted me and said, where are you with this grant? They expect us to be moving forward. I have told them that the RFP is out and we're waiting for it to come back. And they're going to be banging on my door in the next 2 weeks to say what happened with the RFP. If I tell them that the Water Sewer Commission decided not to do a master plan, the money will go away.
Can I ask you a question? Is this money is coming from, obviously, from the state. It's a state grant. It's a grant that went through the legislature. And how much was the total grant originally?
We had a $200,000 earmark. We sat and went into extreme detail with DEP. They grilled us. They were not going to just hand it over and say, this is an earmark, you just get the money. So what they did was they worked with Kevin and I to come up with a list. Kevin did a lot of it working with Marielle on what we would need to do to become a consecutive water system or a public water system of our own, and how to search for our own water. I agree with you. It's going to be very important before we move on to being a consecutive water system on whether or not we're going to be able to have a rate that sustains a system here without increasing the user's costs. But I think that it's short-sighted to hang your hat and stop everything until that piece is known. So I think you're going to need this information. You will lose the grant money if you don't move forward, and I'm not exactly sure how I will even explain to DEP why you didn't move forward on this. You know, we've done a lot of bridge building, trying to get them to understand that the Water Sewer Commission is well-organized, it knows what it wants to do, it wants to become its own public water source, and legitimizing this body. I think that it'll set us back. For me to go back and say, well, we put the RFP out, but the Water Sewer Commission doesn't want to do it. Now, I'm not even sure how to explain that. But I can tell you that this is what the money was approved for. So with that, I would recommend that you vote to approve it. Let us get this work done now. And you'll have this work by the end of February. You will be on track to be able to move forward with your plan for consecutive water system, if you so choose, come the spring, before ExxonMobil starts hooking up residents and you lose the $2,000.
Do you know of any reason why we haven't got any idea of what a water rate from Southbridge would be?
Yes, we haven't started that, and we had this conversation a lot,
Is
you
there
know,
a
it was a
reason why we
very
haven't
long,
started
a bit.
Is there a reason why we haven't
Because
started?
we do not know what exactly we will need for a water department to be sustainable. So parts of this study is to be able to give you the knowledge and the funding of, okay, so I need this piece for capital, I need this for operating. Those are the things that this plan is going to be putting together for you. So to go, as I said at the last time we discussed this, to go to Southbridge right now and ask them or even agree to a water rate, you have so many unanswered questions that you don't know what you would be wanting to bargain for. It would be like throwing a dart in the dark to say, oh, yep, this water rate will sustain us. And you don't know that. You need to go in with that information and know what your bottom line is.
There certainly is, and I just want to, just a couple of things. There's certainly a point that we know that if in fact a rate was determined, that there's an area to where it's automatic that we can't go forward because there's just not enough leeway there.
Do you know what that number is? Because we don't. And that's part of why we're
Well,
trying to do
one of the
this
suggestions
study.
that we kicked around during a meeting, a water sewer meeting, which never got followed through by our employees, is to go and do a survey of other towns within the state that we know who buy and sell water from each other. For instance, Holden and Worcester.
And all that will be
And-
done
and
before we
Hol-
get
and
started.
Holden, I mean, it's a matter of phone calls. You can probably do it in probably 2 hours, okay? And for instance, Holden and Worcester have a contract. Holden buys water from Worcester. Worcester gives them 0 discount, 0. You pay to Holden, Worcester, you pay the same rate as the homeowner pays.
I can tell you, if we went to DEP and said, I did a study of the rates of 10 towns, and here's what we think our rate's gonna be, it's not gonna matter to them.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying is, first of all, you would have a scale of other towns who have gone through this, because we're about to go through it, okay? And we would also have a range of what would be reasonable and realistic, and we would use the old saying, oh, well, such and such town does it, why can't you do it? But, you know.
I think that would be
I'm-
helpful
I'm-
in tandem
I
with the study.
I firmly believe that the answer to DEP saying why we haven't, or why we didn't make this choice tonight is that the Water Sewer Commission is extremely frugal, not only with the money from their rate users, but also with state money. And they don't want to spend the state money unless they have a fairly good idea there's going to be enough differential between what they can buy and sell for without upsetting our customers. And if that differential's there, I know I'm voting no.
But I can
So
tell you
why
that,
spend
no, I think
$76,000?
DEP will look at you and say, well, how are you going to know what you're negotiating for if you haven't done this study? How could you even start the negotiations? That would be what they would say back to me.
Mr. Pecos?
Look, I've said this to you before, at least 3 or 4 times, every time we have this discussion. You currently pay around $1 million a year for water, rough and tough. If Southbridge discounted your rate 30% and you sold the same amount of water and you charged the same rate, you'd have about $300,000. Everybody tracking with me here? Okay. 300,000 is not enough to run a water department, not even close. Anybody would like to call Southbridge tomorrow morning, talk to Heather, the DPW director, and say, Heather, give me a water rate. Or call Ron St. Angelo, the town manager, and say, Ron, give me a water rate. Please, dear God, please, give him a call, ask him. If you seriously think I haven't had that conversation, then you must think me awfully stupid. I've had the conversation with him on several occasions. Now, please, please, this may be the last night I'm ever with you. If I don't communicate anything else, please let me communicate this. They will not give you a rate, period. Think about it for a minute. What is in Southbridge's best interest? To keep the rate as high as they can, right? They're not, if you call them tomorrow and you ask them for a rate, and you somehow pressure them into giving you one, they'll give you a rate, and it will be completely taking advantage of Charlton. It is a negotiation, and in order to negotiate the rate, you must know the components to the rate, and you have to know what we're gonna do that they currently do, because what we're gonna do that they currently do is exactly what they're gonna give you off the rate. Everybody following me?
You have to quantify it.
So, in order to know what we're going to do that they're currently doing, you've got to do this. Because if you don't do this, you haven't got the listen to the things that are in here. A protocol for meter replacement and repair. A protocol for backflow prevention. A policy for chlorination. A policy for testing. All those things that they currently do for you, we're gonna have to do. So here's what I can tell you. I've done back of the envelopes calculations, I've told you this before. If they discount the rate 30%, you're not gonna collect enough to be a public water supplier. You're not. Does anybody seriously think they're gonna discount the rate much lower than 33%? If you do, you're in dreamland, because they're not. There is another solution here, and I've figured it out, and I don't wanna get into it tonight, but what I will tell you is you gotta push the rate discount from Southbridge down as deep as you can get it, which means you gotta do this. You gotta know what you're talking about when you sit across, as Robin has said, when you sit across the table to negotiate with them, you better know what you're talking about. They're gonna eat your lunch. It's as simple as that. And when you sign that new agreement and you sign that new rate in that agreement, your ratepayers are gonna pay the price of you not doing your homework for a long, long time. After you get the rate as low as you can get it by doing this and getting the information so you can negotiate properly, then you gotta do the second part of the equation. You gotta figure out how to generate revenue here without raising a rate, because that's what you said you wanna do. You don't wanna raise the rate, pass what you're paying, pass what the current rate is. And there is a way to do that. And when you do that, that will create the revenue which gives you enough dough, around $500,000 a year, to operate a water department. It is doable. It is absolutely positively achievable. I guarantee you, I've structured it in a spreadsheet, you can do it. Part of the way you have to do it is exactly what Rob was saying. You have to figure out how to have a local water supply from groundwater, which you can sell, because it's a lot lower to produce that groundwater per gallon than surface water. Southbridge's rate is a surface water rate. Groundwater is a much lower rate. Produce it at a lower cost, charge the same thing for it, and then that delta is your $250,000 that gives you a water system. The other, Robin said, there's $200,000 in this grant. This costs $76,500. You gotta hold 10 or 20,000 back for contingencies and things that come along. That leaves you with over $100,000. That $100,000 is gonna go to hire a geotechnical engineer immediately, not someday. Before the month of January is out, I promise you, there will be an engineer hired, you'll approve it, and that engineer will be working on developing a groundwater supply for you. Not someday, not in 5 years, in the month of January 2017. If you do what's laid out, you can have a water supply up and running in the summer of 2018. I guarantee you can do it, I've done it before. I've done it before. It isn't 5 years away. It can be as little as 18 months away. If you get the geotechnical work done over the course of the winter and you're ready to make a application to DEP, and you're simultaneously ready to go to town meeting in the spring with a request for the money that it takes to develop the well, you can be ready in not distant future. This can all happen for you guys, but if you don't award this contract, then you cannot answer the questions. By the way, this is your permit from 2007, right there. Charlton Water and Sewer Commission, BRP WS 34, New Public Water System and Related Interconnection Improvements, September 21st, 2007. There's your permit, okay? That's the real thing. You don't get, doesn't get hung up on the wall. It gets produced in this. Now, here are, I think, 17 different things that you have to do, because here's what your permit says. The applicant is reminded that this permit does not constitute an approval to activate the public water system. A separate letter will be issued granting approval to activate the public water system following your professional engineer's certification satisfactory, receipt of all required submittal material, Mass DEP's final construction impression, and capacity evaluation. All that is what this is doing. I just read to you that task, filling out the application. In 2007, they gave you a permit contingent upon you doing all these things. You didn't do them. 6 months after the permit was issued, it sunsetted. You lost your permit. And by the way, in 2007, you didn't have a master plan. You had a geotechnical analysis of the Buffinville Reservoir well site and its potential for development. That's not a master plan, gentlemen. That is a single well site exploration. And they petitioned DEP, that's the petition. That's the outcome of the petition, to let you develop the well and become a public water supply. And they rejected the well, and when they rejected the well, they said you can be a public water supply if you can figure out another way to get water and do all these things. I apologize, I've said this to you so many times, I don't know what different way I gotta say it anymore.
We keep discussing about it.
Well, again, I'm just, Kevin says he'll go to Southbridge and talk to him about the water rate.
I actually have a meeting with Heather for next Tuesday morning. Steve, help me here, Wednesday. And what we're gonna do, and I'm bringing Veolia and Steve, and Heather is bringing Whitewater. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna sit down and we're gonna list all the things that they currently do for us as our water system operator. You guys know, they're the water system operator. And once we get an agreed list of all those things, then the next step is to take that and turn it into money, to monetize it, it's called, to turn it into money. And then, you're gonna have an ability to negotiate a rate with them. Now, that's not something I can do. But the town administrator, or you, or a committee, or whoever you wanna do it, you will now have a tool which will allow you to begin that process. You still need to do all this stuff in order to finish that process. And one other reminder, for obvious reasons I can't get into it too deeply, you are in mediation with them right now. That mediation process is going, you voted it, it's happening. The mediation is all about how much money they're gonna pay you. Without knowing the end product of that mediation, and that mediation may lead to a lawsuit, to litigation, which may be necessary to get that answer. You can't get an answer to your question because until the mediation is over, you don't know what they're gonna pay you. Remember, it isn't just a reduction in the rate, it's the money they pay you per the IMA. You gotta have it all, guys.
The permit 2007 expired in 6 months?
I believe that's what Mariel told me, it may be in
No,
here
so
in writing, but.
What's it say in the permit?
What
Didn't
does-
expire, didn't expire. And the reason for that permit, that was because of the connection we were gonna do at Timber Valley.
Okay.
That's what that was for. And that's when we did a reversal in our tracks and said, you know what? We don't wanna be consecutive water suppliers. That's when we asked Southbridge to operate our system, and that's when we went into that new IMA. That was IMA number 2.
Okay. So can we take a vote?
Ready to go home?
There you go. Aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay.
with a capital N.
Passes. Robin, what's the next step for that? Does that need a contract for Beta?
Yes, I'll put
Okay.
that together. Work with Kevin to get that done.
All right. One more thing. Mountain
No.
Water Main's drawing bid spec and engineering review.
I just wanted to let you guys know that the plans are in. We have to do a peer review. We don't have anybody else to do it, so I've asked Viola to give us a price to do the peer review. They have to coordinate with Heather, because as you guys know, it requires 2 reviews, yours and the DPW directors. Typically, you have an engineer review the plans, and then they submit a recommendation to you, and you bring the applicant in, and you have a discussion. The engineer gives you their recommendation, and you guys take a vote.
Can I ask, what project is this?
What's this, I'm sorry?
The La Mountain project. What project's that?
Part of the ExxonMobil project. It's one segment of it.
Oh, so it's not La Mountain project? Why are we using the name La Mountain?
They're calling it that
That's what
loop,
they're calling
that,
it.
They call it.
they're phasing
It's
it,
in
and
the
that's their
location of the
phase.
Robin, you
CBS.
know, we should correct them on that. It shouldn't be called that. There's no need for it to be called that.
Well, it's their project, and they have,
But it's, you know, it's almost slang, rather, because that name has nothing to do with the project.
it's,
Should we
they
refer to it-
name it that because that's where the release was.
Oh, well, then
So that they're-
we should call it,
The other thing
we
is
should
that
call it 148 Worcester Road. That's what we should call it.
the ACO is also tied and called to La Mountain Release. So I hear what you're saying.
That should be corrected.
We can
That should be
work on that.
Well, the important thing, irrespective of what you want to call it, is that it is a segment of the ExxonMobil project. It's the design. So I'm trying to get Viola to do your peer review, because you don't have anyone else to do peer reviews, and we're trying to get some money.
How do we know we don't have anyone else to do peer reviews? Did we check with our local people? Anyone check with Burton? Did we check with the new company in town?
Well, you guys
Which
can
is
tell me
Jake,
who you want to have do it, but
Yeah.
it's imminent. They are submitting by the way, y'all got an email on this.
Right.
What email? I didn't get an email.
Yes,
Did
you
you get an
did.
email?
Yes, you did.
What email?
Got an email which
I'll
was
ex-
forwarded to you from Tara with the website where you can go and get the plans.
So what we're talking about is the ExxonMobil plan for the new water extension. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, in the
Okay.
former Lamountain area, now the CVS area.
Which they're trying to fast track to be
Is
able to
this-
get this construction bid documents out as soon as possible
is
so that
this
they can
Old
meet the
Worcester Road?
deadline of construction in the spring.
Morton Station Road,
I-
Luggett Hill.
I haven't looked at
I haven't seen the
exactly
plan. I
which
don't
one
know.
it is.
Is it all of it or not all of
Yeah,
it?
no, it's all, because
You have no idea?
we
I
took
haven't
the
seen the plan.
first $500,000
What is
to
it?
them, we signed
Yes.
off on the Mass Pike. So the next thing was La Mountain.
What they said is it's 169, now it's this segment, and then it'll be another segment, and it'll be the loop. You know, they're doing it in segments.
Okay.
By the way, there's a plan down the office.
Yes.
If y'all wanna go down and look at it, please don't take it, because it's the only one we have. So go down there and look at the plan if you don't wanna go online and look at it.
That's got how they're phasing it out too.
Yeah, because the
how it's
one on
phased.
land, what I sent you, the one on the internet, it's very hard to see it, cause it's a big plan and you get on it, you know, it's not very big, but the one down
So
the
do you have
office
it in
is
digital
full
form?
scale.
I do not. Yeah,
Can we-
yeah,
can we-
I've
can
asked
we-
for it.
Can you get it from her? Digital form?
I think we have 3 copies down the office, right?
Paper copies, yes.
Yeah, can we get it in digital form?
It
Worst
is in
case scenario, I
digital
can
form.
take
That's
it
what
down
was
to.
emailed.
No, no,
To
get
the
it from
printer.
them. They have it
They
digitally.
will not be able to email.
No, Steve,
It's too big.
Steve, it was sent to the commission in digital form.
The hot
There were
link.
2 web addresses. You have to go to the web
Oh,
address,
okay.
and it's right there. I've done it myself and
There's a
looked at it.
hyperlink to it.
And when did we get this email? Give me a
2 weeks
phone.
ago.
Somebody's got a computer, you can
And
look it up.
it was from,
It's been
from
last Thursday,
It
Wednesday.
was from
Was
Kleinfelder?
it more or?
It's from Tara at
Tara?
Kleinfelder, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'm been waiting because I need to talk to you in executive session, please.
Not on the agenda,
I asked the chairman if I could
Not
come
on the
tonight.
Not on the agenda.
not on the agenda.
No, that's fine.
I was told it was okay.
Can you go into executive session? Give me 1 second, I'll
I
check.
I did not know that this was happening.
Yeah, well, I can get I've got it out in the car, and I can check it for you, because I'm not sure if you
It's
can-
right there. And it's on real
Somebody gonna open
estate,
the
so
meeting
I need
Is
it.
it in there?
The red one.
Robert's rules.
That's number 6, probably.
No, not, well, again,
On
You didn't know I was coming before you tonight, and I didn't,
give it a hard time. We're in executive session.
stop
Yeah,
giving me a
it's
hard
like-
time.
Give me the red
It's
book
10
here,
o'clock at night.
please.
What is it? The rules finna
I know
go.
where it is, I just gotta look at it real quick.
Why can we not? It's not open to public, so
Yeah.
I would think we could do that.
Yeah, this
Never
is
stopped us before.
negotiations, and I'll just say, because you're supposed to list what the purpose is, it's for negotiations with Exxon for the final agreement.
We've got one more to add to the sinking ship, so put it in. I'd like to make a
Convene.
motion,
Yeah, according to this, you're okay.
I'd like to make a motion to go into an executive session for the, do you have it in front of you?
Strategy for real estate. We can look up the number and put it in, but it's
You remember what
basically on
number it is?
Exxon.
2, 6, 6?
Three or six, I think.
Six covers
Number
a lot.
6, to, strategy for, I don't know, negotiating of purposes or whatever, so.
Yep.
All right.
Coming out for the purposes of adjournment.
Yep.
There we go, thank you. Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and such discussions may have detrimental effect on negotiating positions of the governmental body in person, form, or corporation.
All right, got a motion, here a second?
Roll call.
Lemansky, aye.
Gagnon, aye.
Berthium, aye.
Kenzie, aye. We're in executive session.
Kill it, Drew.